Chapter 130, 5 Taeksu Temple. Kingshan Village is located east of the Taeksu Mountains, and since the first household was established, the villagers have made a living by farming. The village is located at the foot of the mountain, with terraced fields stretching along the hillside like waves. Above the terraced fields, there are lush forests formed by rows of trees. After passing through this forest and crossing 5 more mountains, you will see a square temple. The temple is named Taeksu Temple and is situated by the mountain and water. Throughout the surrounding area of the Taeksu Mountains, countless villages come here to pray for incense whenever they have a problem. Chen Mobai obtained the tortoise shell from this temple, and he had always wanted to come back to investigate whether there were any other hidden stories behind this opportunity. Early in the morning, the mother and son traversed mountains and valleys, bringing offerings to the Taeksu Temple. But they discovered that white lanterns were hanging from the eaves of the temple. Who left? Tang Pankui wiped the sweat from her forehead and muttered to herself. Her cultivation level was average, and she was already a little tired after crossing 5 mountains. I'll go ask. Chen Mobai, carrying his bag, remained calm and composed. While letting his mother rest, he knocked on the door. Squeak! A short while later, a junior monk opened the door. Esteemed guests, our temple's venerable master of fireworks passed away last night. We will be holding religious ceremonies for the next few days and will not be open to the public. We sincerely apologize for this. The young monk looked apologetic after hearing their purpose. Respect for the dead is paramount. Chen Mobai nodded in understanding and was about to leave with Tang Pankui, planning to come back in a few days. Since we've come all this way, having crossed 5 mountains, why don't we offer a stick of incense? Tang Pankui casually mentioned it. The junior monk hesitated for a moment after hearing this, then went back to consult the abbot, who actually let them in. The Taeksu Temple is neither too big nor too small. The layout is square, surrounding an open-air courtyard in the center. In the center of the courtyard stands a 3-meter-long bronze cauldron, its interior filled with the ashes of burnt incense. Upon entering, you are greeted by the main hall of the Taeksu Temple, where a statue of the Taeksu true god, whose origins are unknown, is displayed. The statue is carried by a giant stone tortoise, holds a jade ruler in its left hand, wears a robe with the Taiji Bagua symbol on the front and a galaxy of stars on the sleeves, and has a majestic face. Chen Mobai looked at the empty right hand of the statue, where a tortoise shell had been held, but now it was bare. That's enough for now, benefactor. After the young monk led them in, he pointed to the white lanterns hanging in the back hall, indicating that a mourning hall was set up there, and that they should not go there. Thank you. After thanking him, Chen Mobai used his phone to scan the QR code at the door and donated 1888 yuan to charity. He's quite wealthy now. Chen Mobai had 200,000 merit points from Shen Huangxiu's conversion of spirit sand into cash in her card, and 300,000 merit points from Qing Nu's betting winnings. However, since her card had a daily limit of 20,000 merit points for transfers, Chen Mobai told her not to transfer them to him yet. It just so happens that he has refined enough chi-replenishing spiritual water recently, enough for 3 months. So Chen Mobai asked her to use these merits to buy medicinal materials and auxiliary materials to exchange for another kind of pill. Because all spiritual water pills have a shelf life, they are more effective when taken freshly made. As for which elixir to use, Chen Mobai didn't know either, so he let Qingnu buy the medicinal materials and practice on her own. After thinking it over, Qingnu took into consideration both aspects and chose the first-grade superior, clear fire pill. If you have enough chi-replenishing water, enhancing your spiritual sense is the best option. After all, to successfully establish a foundation, one must have a deficiency in any of the 3 aspects: essence, energy, and spirit. Among these, enhancing one's spiritual awareness is the most difficult. However, Dangxia City is a perfect place to use local materials to refine Qinghuo Dan, a traditional Chinese medicine formula, with the main ingredients of the jade wudong flower and fruit. Chen Mobai applauded her choice. However, this kind of pill is extremely precious even among first-tier pills, and it costs 20,000 merit points to refine just one batch. Although Chen Mobai felt a pang of regret for the merit he had just earned, he thought that the merit in Qing Nu's card was earned through betting, and it was well worth it to convert it into his strength or to improve Qing Nu's alchemy skills. Moreover, if one can successfully refine the fire-clearing pill, the official price set by the immortal sect is 5,000 merit points per pill. A single batch can produce a maximum of 10 pills. With the spiritual essence provided by Chen Mobai, Qing Nu can quickly earn back her investment once she succeeds in refining them. To do two things at once. With Qing Nu in his mind, Chen Mobai had already finished offering incense and placed the offerings he had brought from his bag on the table in front of the statue. On the other side, the temple's abbot also came out from the back of the morning hall and chatted with Tang Pengqui. So that's how it is. I never expected that a true dragon from one of the 4 great Taoist academies could emerge from among the people of Takesu Mountain. When he heard from Tang Pengqui that Chen Mobai had actually been admitted to the Dance Weapon Academy, he couldn't help but show a look of shock and pride. It's all thanks to the incense offerings here that we've come to fulfill our vows today. But since there's something to do at the temple, we won't linger any longer. When Tang Pengqui saw that Chen Mobai had already laid out the offerings of melons, fruits, mulberries, and dates, and lit the incense, she smiled and said goodbye to the host. Would it be possible to take a group photo? The host was an old man with gray hair. He also remembered Tang Pengqui and Chen Mobai, since they were the only mother and son who had encountered problems while offering incense over the years. He shamelessly dragged Chen Mobai to take a picture, intending to use it to promote Takesu Temple in the future, and the latter did not refuse. After taking the picture, Chen Mobai hesitated for a moment, but ultimately did not ask about the tortoise shell. Esteemed guests, it's noon now. Please have some vegetarian food before you go. Looking at the photos on his phone, the abbot was satisfied and told the young monk to take the mother and child to have a vegetarian meal. He still had to go to the morning hall to chant sutras. Thank you for hosting. Led by the junior monk, they headed to the right-hand side hall, which was the dining hall. The 3 of them ate and chatted. I wonder when this Takesu temple was built. It is said to have a long history. Anyway, the temple was already there when our ancestors started to build villages in the Takesu Mountains. I feel that the temple has a decent spiritual energy. Yes, there is a second-tier spiritual vein in the Takesu Mountains. Although it has been suppressed and absorbed by the immortal sects, if we apply to use it, because it is close to the source of the spiritual vein, the spiritual energy is transported through the pipes with less loss. So although we only purchased mid-grade first-tier spiritual energy, it is actually very close to high-grade first-tier. After listening to what the young cultivator said, Chen Mobai used his phone to test his spiritual energy level and nodded slightly. Junior brother, the geomancer who collects garbage, will be here soon. Quickly pack up Elder Liu Lingpei's belongings. These things can't be cremated in the temple, so let them take them away and dispose of them. Just then, an older cultivator called out to the younger cultivator at the door, and the latter immediately put down his bowl and chopsticks. Please enjoy your meal. I'll go and pack up Elder Liu's belongings. Wait, the elder who passed away in your temple today was named Liu Lingpei. Chen Mobai's eyes widened, and he immediately called out to the young cultivator who was about to leave. Yes, do you know Elder Liu, benefactor? I think I saw him when I came to the temple to burn incense when I was a child. He even gave me a piece of candy. Chen Mobai gave a reason that made the young cultivator look puzzled. Elder Liu was a recluse and never received worshippers. End of this chapter. Chapter 136, Liu Lingpei's Notes. Chapter 136, Liu Lingpei's Notes. However, I've only been at the temple for 3 years. Perhaps Elder Liu was the one who entertained the guests before. The young cultivator immediately found another reason for Chen Mobai's words, which made the latter breathe a sigh of relief. How about I help you tidy up? This, thank you very much, benefactor. If someone helps, I'd definitely be willing. Chen Mobai let Tang Pengqui eat, then got up and went with the young cultivator to pack up the relics. Has this Elder Liu always been in your Takesu temple? Yes, Elder Liu is one of the most senior members of our Takesu temple. He and our abbot address each other as fellow disciples. However, he is a loner. Over the years, he has spent his time cleaning up chores in the temple. Apart from that, he likes to go into the mountains to collect herbs and often goes out for more than 10 days without returning. As they talked, the two arrived at Liu Lingpei's room. Upon opening the door, they found a simple bed, a table, a wardrobe, and a storage cabinet, but rows of bookshelves stood around the room, filled with all sorts of books. There are books about the history, laws, and administrative policies of the immortal sects, as well as introductions to Taoist academies and schools. There are also many books on cultivation methods and spellbooks circulating in the market, and even methods of talisman and alchemy. Elder Liu is also the doctor in our temple. Whenever someone has a headache or fever, we ask him to prescribe herbal medicine, and it works quite well. As the young monk spoke, he spread the quilt from the bed onto the ground, then placed the clothes, medicine pots, pans, and other miscellaneous items from the room on it, preparing to pack everything up, sort them, and put them in the garbage dump for the geomancers to collect. Do you still want these? Chen Mobai pointed to the nearly 100 books on the bookshelf, thinking that he might find some clues among them about why this cultivator from the five-element sect of the Heavenly River realm came to Earth Origin Star. We don't want any of it. The host said to get rid of everything. As the young monk tidied his clothes, he looked up and upon discovering it was books, immediately shook his head. Then I'll help you tidy up these. Chen Mobai took the mat from the bed and spread it out on the ground, just like the little cultivator. Then he took the books off the bookshelf one by one. He briefly scanned each book with his divine sense to make sure there were no hidden papers or contents before placing them on the mat. After working for about half an hour, he finally finished organizing all the books on the bookshelf and found 3 or 4 blank notebooks. These notebooks are very strange. Although they are blank, many pages are wrinkled, as if they have been constantly being turned and written on. He used his divine sense to discover the clues. These notebooks were written with a special ink, which probably needs to be washed with a special solution before they can be viewed, or the handwriting can be seen more clearly by examining it with one's divine sense. What was Elder Liu Lingpei's cultivation level when he was alive? I don't know exactly which level the late stage of qi refining is, but I heard the abbot say that Elder Liu has the highest cultivation level in our Takesu temple. Chen Mobai understood. The abbot was only at the 6th level of qi refining. Liu Lingpei hid the notes in this way, so even if someone accidentally entered the Takesu temple, they would not see what he had written. I happen to be making talismans recently and need some notebooks to draft them. Why don't you give me these? I'm willing to donate some more money to the temple as incense money. Not at all. Please feel free to take it if you need it. Upon hearing this, the young monk quickly shook his head. They're just a few blank notebooks. They're not worth much. Where is your Takesu temple's garbage dump? I'll use magic to help you carry it there. As they were talking, Chen Mobai activated his lightness and leap technique, picked up the wrapped blankets and mats, and with the little cultivator's guidance, threw them onto an open area on the south side of the temple. Thank you, benefactor. The junior cultivator was only at the 3rd level of qi refining. Without Chen Mobai's help, it would take at least 2 trips to throw everything away. Now it's been easily solved, and I'm all smiles. On the way home, Tang Pankui looked at the notebook in Chen Mobai's hand with a look of disgust. Things belonging to the dead are considered unlucky. Upon hearing this, Chen Mobai could only roll his eyes and pretend he hadn't heard a thing. After returning to Kingshan village, Chen Mobai sat on a recliner in the courtyard and began to use his divine sense to decipher the diaries written in invisible ink. Upon receiving news from my junior brother that the primordial ancestor has passed away, and that the wood and metal branches intend to rebel and split the sect, I, as a disciple of the 5-element sect, will absolutely not allow such a thing to happen. On the way, I encountered a senior brother from the Golden Vein. After a fierce battle, although I killed my opponent, I was also seriously injured and had to find a mountain with a little spiritual energy to recuperate. The mountain was nameless, but at the heart of the spiritual vein atop it stood a Taiksu temple. I entered it and healed my wounds beneath the statue, but when I awoke, I found myself on a different continent. Sect legend says that the heavenly river realm was originally a vast ocean. After the jellyfish achieved void refinement and Tao integration, she created the 5 continents and 4 seas. I never imagined it would be true. I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse for me. I hope the cultivators on this alien continent aren't demonic cultivators. Upon seeing this, Chen Mobai realized that Liu Lingpei seemed to have taken a long time to resume writing in his diary. The subsequent notes, written in a hasty handwriting, foreshadowed the profound shock Liu Lingpei experienced while writing them. This isn't the heavenly river realm, but an alien world called Earth Origin Star. The hundreds of millions of humans here all possess spiritual roots and are all cultivating chi to become immortals. The entire heavenly river realm probably doesn't have that many cultivators. The sect ruling this world is called the Immortal Sect, and it even has 2 legendary nascent soul true monarchs and more than 10 nascent soul old monsters. Could this be the immortal realm? After writing this far, I paused for a long time before adding new content. I've learned that the immortal sect launches wars of expansion every so often. We absolutely cannot let them know about the existence of the heavenly river realm. Otherwise, with the eastern wilderness as their anchor point for invasion, the strongest 5-element sect will surely be destroyed. Without an ID card, I can only wander in the countryside outside the city, afraid to enter the legendary 36 heavenly grottos and 72 blessed lands. For I've heard that each of these celestial cities is guarded by a golden core ancestor. Chen Mobai read this part just as a notebook was finished, describing Liu Lingpei's amazement at the immortal sect and his cautious inquiries about the immortal sect outside the city. Because he was unregistered, he couldn't even buy a mobile phone or access the internet. After learning about the system of the immortal sect and knowing that there were 2 golden core cultivators in Dangxia City nearby, they dared not rob it and could only retreat back to the Taiksu Mountains. Chen Mobai picked up the second notebook and finally discovered what had happened after Liu Lingpei entered the Taiksu Temple. I've heard that there's also a Taiksu Temple in this mountain. My arrival in this world might be related to this temple, so I need to find a way to infiltrate it. End of this chapter. Chapter 137 Life. Chapter 137 Life. This world is extremely resource scarce. Even spirit stones are non-existent. When I transmigrated, I had dozens of spirit stones with me, but unfortunately, I used them all up while trying to recover my cultivation in the wilderness. Even if I kept it, I wouldn't dare exchange it for good deeds. Upon reading this, Chen Mobai sensed Liu Lingpei's helplessness between the lines. Being alone in a foreign land, especially in a highly modernized society like the Immortal Sect, makes it difficult to move around without an ID card, and even the spiritual energy needed for cultivation cannot be purchased or applied for. I pretended to be a mountain dweller with amnesia, concealed my age, and fainted at the temple gate. The kind abbot took me in as a disciple, and I began doing odd jobs at the temple. Although the spiritual energy in this temple is weak, at least I can continue my cultivation. I secretly meditate under the statue at night, but after a year when I open my eyes, I'm still within the territory of this immortal sect. I've searched the statue and the entire temple inside and out, but there's nothing mysterious about it. How can I go home? My cultivation level is at the 9th level of chi refining, making me the strongest in the temple. At the same time, through the magical artifact of the internet, I've learned even more about the super-powerful immortal sect. The immortal sects here teach without discrimination. They even exchange nascent soul cultivation techniques. It's just a pity I don't have an ID card to register a national library account. But for me, even if all the nascent soul cultivation techniques were placed before me, none would be as important as a foundation establishment pill. I was almost at the point where I had enough sect contribution points to exchange for foundation establishment pills, but I wonder how the suppression of the sect rebellion is going in the heavenly river realm. Did my junior brothers and sisters survive the rebellion? Chen Mobai finished reading the second notebook, which contained Liu Lingpei's fragmented records of his exploration of the immortal sect, his life in the temple, and his longing for the sect and his hometown. The further I went, the more scribbled my notes became. By the last page, they had all transformed into a single conviction. I'm going to build my foundation. Liu Lingpei had spent 10 years in the Taixu Temple and had a thorough understanding of the immortal sects. He knew perfectly well that there were no foundation establishment pills here, and the 3 types of pills that could replace them were rare treasures that he, a wild cultivator, could neither afford nor obtain. As he grew older and was about to cross the age of 60, when his vital energy and essence were at their peak, he finally couldn't hold back any longer. He decided to take a risk and fight to the death to break through to the qi refining realm without any foundation establishment pills. I told the abbot about this, and he was very supportive, allowing me to enter into a retreat in the main hall of the temple, where the spiritual energy was most abundant. I read over a dozen manuals on successful foundation establishment from the cultivation sects, reaching the stage of spiritual energy liquefaction, but failed at the last moment. My divine sense wasn't strong enough, my spiritual energy went berserk, and ultimately my meridians ruptured, resulting in a failed foundation establishment. But I succeeded. My cultivation level dropped to the 8th level of qi refining, but when I woke up, I found myself back in the heavenly river realm. Chen Mobai opened the 3rd notebook, and the first line made his eyes widen. He couldn't wait to read on. This rich spiritual energy, this dilapidated little temple, without a doubt, this is the place I visited before I traveled to Earthly Star. I couldn't wait to return to my sect, only to find that I had been expelled from the 5 Elements sect for cowardice and desertion, for failing to heed the sect's call to arms 10 years ago. Even my junior brothers and sisters thought I didn't want to share the sect's fate and were ashamed of me, so they tried to kill me to cleanse the sect. I was already injured and had fallen in cultivation level due to the failure of foundation establishment. Fortunately, I had a 2nd-tier spirit talisman to save my life. My sect was also engaged in a fierce battle with the Divine Wood sect's Golden Light Cliff, so they couldn't spare any attention for a nobody like me. I managed to escape with great difficulty. I returned to the tranquil lake, feeling utterly lost and bleak. I wanted to end it all but couldn't muster the courage. Beneath the 2nd-tier spiritual vein of Azure Wave Lake, I spent a year recovering from my injuries and broke through to the 9th level of qi refining once again. But after my breakthrough, I found myself back in the Taixu Temple on Earthly Star. What on earth is going on? In his 3rd notebook, Liu Lingpei wrote about his desolation after failing to establish his foundation, the joy of returning to the heavenly river realm, the despair of being expelled from the sect, and the criticism from relatives and friends, and finally, his disheartened state after returning to Earth Origin Star. I think I understand now. It's possible that each time I break through a realm, I traverse between 2 worlds, but what causes this behavior? Forget it, why think about these things? I can't break through any further anyway. Besides, I've already been abandoned by everyone in the heavenly river realm, so I might as well spend the rest of my life in this little temple. At least, the teachers and senior students here didn't treat me as a disgrace. What follows is the ordinary yet fulfilling life that Liu Lingpei spent in the Taixu Temple on this earthly star. He wrote about the aging of the abbot, the arrival of the junior apprentice, the departure of the senior apprentices, the expansion and reconstruction of the temple, and the entry of the next generation. And just like that, another 10 years passed. The abbot died, and all the senior students returned. After handling the funeral arrangements, the 4 of us started discussing who should take over. The eldest disciple disliked the poverty here and didn't plan to stay. The 2nd disciple had always followed him. In the end, only the youngest disciple and I were left in the temple. The youngest disciple also wanted to leave, but I didn't want to be the abbot. After much persuasion from me, my junior apprentice finally took over the dilapidated temple with a long face. After the authorities came to verify it, they issued him a certificate of employment. 30 years passed in the blink of an eye in the notebook, and Liu Lingpei finally wrote down something that Chen Mobai was familiar with. A mother and son came today from Qingshan village. They arrived early this morning to offer incense and pray for good luck on their college entrance exams. When this child was offering incense, I happened to be sweeping the floor in the main hall. I don't know how it happened, maybe it's because I'm old, but I bumped into him as I passed by. He staggered, dropping the incense sticks he was holding. His hands, out of control, flailed wildly, bumping into the tortoise shell held by the right hand of the Taixu statue. His palm was cut, and blood flowed freely. After learning the truth from me, my junior apprentice asked me to go into the mountains to gather herbs and leave for a while he dealt with the troublemaking shrew. After I returned, I heard that my junior apprentice had given the tortoise shell back to the mother and child. It's strange, even though I'm old, I still have no problem controlling my body. How could I have suddenly bumped into that child? From then on, I suddenly felt my body deteriorating day by day. A quick calculation revealed that I had already lived on this earthly star for 50 years, making me a centenarian. A chi refining cultivator without illness or disaster can live for 120 years. My first half of life was spent in the environment of the heavenly river realm, fighting countless battles, suffering multiple near-death injuries, and failing to achieve foundation establishment. I'm afraid 100 years is already my limit. On my deathbed, I suddenly felt a pang of resentment and decided to attempt foundation establishment one last time in the final moments of my life. Even if the probability of success is less than 1%, I will die in the process of breaking through. My notes end here. But Chen Mobai had already come to understand Liu Lingpei's ordinary, yet eventful life. End of this chapter. Chapter 138, Returning to Qingguang Island. Chapter 138, Returning to Qingguang Island. Chen Mobai put down his notebook. My emotions are still unsettled. After a long while, he stood up solemnly, clasped his hands in a gesture of respect towards the direction of the Taixu temple, and performed a salute to the heavenly river realm. Although Liu Lingpei was a complete stranger to him, he would never forget Liu's kindness if Chen Mobai were to achieve anything in the future. Did this tortoise shell come from the heavenly river realm, or was it originally from earthly origin star? Chen Mobai picked up the tortoise shell that he had placed on top of the talisman. To anyone else, it was just an ordinary object, devoid of any spiritual energy. It was precisely because of this that Liu Lingpei, who had been beside this treasure for 50 years, did not realize that it was this tortoise shell that was carrying him between the two worlds. Chen Mobai couldn't understand it, but the only thing he was certain of was that the Taixu temple was definitely not simple. Or perhaps that Taixu true God image is an incarnation of a powerful being. However, given Liu Lingpei's experience, Chen Mobai knew that if a treasure was unwilling to appear before him, even if he held it in his arms for decades, he would not get the chance. Ultimately, one must become strong oneself. Thinking this way, Chen Mobai picked up Liu Lingpei's last notebook again. What is recorded above is not his diary, but his insights into the practice of the Blackwater Kung Fu. Although Liu Lingpei bought a lot of cultivation techniques and spells printed and sold in the immortal sect market, he did not switch to other cultivation methods because his foundation was already established. He has always been practicing the Qi cultivation method of the 5-element sect. After reading it through once, Chen Mobai gained a lot. Although he didn't switch to practicing the black water technique, he had mastered almost all the spells that came with it. He considered himself to have achieved some success, but compared to Liu Lingpei, who had devoted his entire life to it, he was merely a beginner. Chen Mobai gained a lot from reading Liu Lingpei's insights into the Blackwater magic system. He felt he could win more easily if he were to fight Yang Jing again now. However, these were not the biggest gains. This manual also recorded the methods for setting up restrictions using the Ren Water Thunder method and how to break them. With it, after returning to the Water Mansion, Chen Mobai would no longer need to use the second-tier Yiwood Divine Thunder Talisman to easily open the remaining 2 side halls. I just don't know what Liu Lingpei left in there. However, Liu Lingpei certainly never imagined that decades later, Chen Mobai would be able to inherit his tortoise shell and water palace. But perhaps it was fate. He left a method in his notes to break the restrictions of the Ren water thunder technique. Chen Mobai glanced at it and realized that black water was required to perform the technique, which he happened to have. He just needed to practice the method, which might take some time. Since he didn't have anything else to do recently, he decided to practice for now. It's time to go back to the heavenly river realm. If the monster siege of the island has ended, then leave Qingguang Island and return to the water palace. With that in mind, Chen Mobai decided to go to the heavenly river realm tonight to check on the situation. After dinner, he returned to his room, carefully placed the tortoise shell under his pillow, then turned on his phone and for the first time in a long time, tapped teleport. With a flash of silver light, he finally returned to the heavenly river realm after a month. But as soon as he returned, Chen Mobai sensed that something was wrong. The entrance to the hole he dug was blocked up. With a slight change in expression, Chen Mobai adjusted himself back to battle mode. With the talisman and needle box in hand, he carefully moved away the wooden strips and clods of earth blocking the entrance of the cave, bit by bit. About half an hour later, they finally saw the light of day again. After waiting for a while and confirming that there was no danger, Chen Mobai poked his head out. Looking around, his expression changed drastically. His wooden house had collapsed, and it was unknown what kind of aftershocks it had endured. That's why the hole was blocked. Chen Mobai became even more cautious. After clearing the debris from the cave entrance, he darted out and looked outside. Upon closer inspection, the scene became even more shocking. The wooden houses that used to line the island were now mostly collapsed and broken. The entire Qingguang Island looked like it had been ravaged by a giant monster, with a huge gap bitten into the highest peak. The once bustling streets were now in ruins, littered with signs of battle. He also saw many mutilated monster corpses, but no one was there. Upon reaching a high point, looking around, one could see that several of the spirit trees that formed the heavenly wood divine light array were broken, and some had even been uprooted and turned into charred wood. Chen Mobai took out his phone and checked the remaining spiritual energy concentration on the island, finding that it was only 1 point. Just how fierce was the battle? When Chen Mobai and Qi Rui teamed up, the latter told him that as long as the spiritual veins of Qingguang Island were still there, the Tianmu Divine Light Array could continuously draw spiritual energy from the Earth's veins to protect the entire island. But now, it is clear that the spiritual veins of the entire Qingguang Island have been drained in the fierce battle. Even cultivators in the heavenly river realm would not engage in such a wasteful act unless absolutely necessary. After all, Qingguang Island had been managed by the Shenmu sect for decades, and the cultivation of the island's spiritual veins had cost tens of thousands of spirit stones. If it weren't for a last resort, a life-or-death situation, they certainly wouldn't have resorted to such a desperate measure, squeezing every last drop of energy from the island. Chen Mobai used a guiding talisman, which could locate the place with the most abundant spiritual energy. He quietly followed behind and arrived at the highest point of Qingguang Island, the top of the island that looked like it had been gnawed by a giant beast. Looking around, he found that the place had become a scorched earth. They arrived at what was supposed to be the final battleground, where the teleportation array was located. Chen Mobai saw even more horrific signs of battle. The ground was littered with the ashes of used talismans, broken magical artifacts, and empty porcelain bottles of pills. The earth had turned dark red, but there was not a single corpse in sight. He walked towards the breached and collapsed teleportation array hall, where countless drops of blood seeped out, staining half the mountain red. Chen Mobai gritted his teeth, turned around and walked towards the west bank that his squad had previously guarded. The spirit tree of the array flags has broken, lost all its spiritual light, and withered, lying on the cliff. The traces of battle can also be seen here, and it was here that Chen Mobai discovered the reason why there were no corpses. On the distant sea, dozens of black plague birds with bloodshot eyes perched on the water's surface, gnawing on the corpses of cultivators submerged in the water. It must have been after Kingguang Island was breached that the demonic beasts swarmed in and ate the cultivators' corpses. I wonder how many people escaped through the teleportation array. Are there any other cultivators who have survived on the island? Are the members of my squad still alive? As Chen Mobai pondered this, he crouched down on the cliff to avoid attracting the attention of the flock of black plague birds. He dared not linger there. He used a cleansing spell to remove all the smell from his body, returned to the wooden hut he had dug, covered it up again, and returned to Earth Star with a heavy heart. Happy Children's Day, everyone. I'm asking for your guaranteed monthly votes at the beginning of the month. Bang, 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 I'll kowtow 3 times to you all. End of this chapter. Chapter 139, Switching to Cultivating the Pure Yang Scroll. Chapter 139, Switching to Cultivating the Pure Yang Scroll. Chen Mobai was worried about the safety of Qi Rui and the others. It was a pity that communication was inconvenient in the Tian realm, unlike on the Diyuan star where one could simply make a phone call to inquire. However, there was no use in worrying. He could only continue to strengthen himself. After consuming a vial of Qi-replenishing spiritual water, Chen Mobai continued to circulate the 5 elements technique to refine spiritual energy. Overnight, he felt his spiritual power increase and began to consider switching to the pure Yang scroll. The earlier one begins cultivating the pure Yang Dharma body, the better. He happened to have 10 spirit stones left, which he could use to try cultivating the 1 Yang body. However, Chen Mobai did not dare to proceed with the matter of switching cultivation methods on his own. It would be best to have an experienced teacher to guide him. He took out his phone and looked at his contacts. The 2 with the highest cultivation levels are Lan Haitian from Kunpeng Academy and Bayan Yiking from Wuki Academy. However, Chen Mobai didn't dare to call the former and could only contact Bayan Yiking, whom he had just added as a friend after the battle. Teacher Bayan, I'm planning to switch majors. After editing his situation into a long text and sending it over, Chen Mobai waited for a response. A few minutes later, Bayan Yiking replied with a message. I practice the dream interruption song, so I can't give you any advice, but I can ask around for you. Chen Mobai replied with a thank you emoji, then continued making talismans while waiting for news. He took out a stack of long strips of talisman paper, picked up the bamboo brush given to him by Shen Huangxiu, dipped it in the simplest talisman ink he had made, and began to draw talismans. What was drawn was naturally the Resurrection Talisman, a basic talisman used by the Divine Wood sect to recruit rogue cultivators. He felt good after making the first stroke. However, when I made the second stroke, I felt something was wrong, but I could only grit my teeth and keep drawing. After it was drawn, the talisman had no spiritual power. Chen Mobai picked it up with a glimmer of hope and infused it with spiritual power to activate it. With a poof sound, a wisp of smoke rose, and the talisman spontaneously combusted without wind, turning into ashes. It failed. It's normal to fail the first time. With this thought in mind, Chen Mobai remained unaffected, picked up his brush again, dipped it in ink, and applied it to the second talisman paper. After failing 12 times in a row and using up all the talismans, Chen Mobai's hands were trembling. The confidence she had painstakingly built up from winning the battle was slightly shaken. Before drawing the talisman, he had considered it several times, and he already knew the order of the strokes. He thought that if he tried a dozen of these basic first-grade low-level talismans, he should be able to succeed at least once. But to my surprise, I kept failing. Just as he was about to pick up another stack of talismans, ready to overcome this obstacle with sheer willpower, the phone rang. Bayan Yiking actually called in person. Go to Danju Academy and find the crimson-robed immortal. Will the master personally instruct me? Chen Mobai's tone became excited upon hearing this. In my Wuki Dao Academy, there is only one Shaoyang Zhenren who has cultivated the pure Yang scripture and formed the golden core. However, he has been in seclusion for 10 years. It just so happens that the crimson robe Zhenren is his junior brother. After I told him about your situation, the Zhenren had a good impression of you, so he was willing to take some time to give you some guidance. Thank you, Teacher Bayan. Chen Mobai knew very well that if he went to the crimson-robed master for guidance, he would not even be able to see him. It must have been Bayan Yiking who reported Chen Mobai's matter to the Tao Academy, and then the Tao Academy relayed it to the crimson-robed immortal, which led to this opportunity. Don't be so polite, just focus on your cultivation. After exchanging pleasantries, Bayan Yiking hung up the phone. He had already left Danxia City after the duel ended. Because of the entrance exam, Bayan Yiking wasted a lot of time. His 2 apprentices Jade Phoenix Opera Troupe had already toured 2 more blessed cities after Danxia City. However, now when Chen Mobai meets Meng Huinger and Jiang Yuyuan again, he has to call them senior sisters and senior brothers. Although he was somewhat reluctant to leave the peaceful and quiet life in the countryside, Chen Mobai ultimately had to leave for the sake of his own path. The next day, Chen Mobai said goodbye to his grandparents. Although the 2 elderly people were reluctant to part with their child, they knew that the child's future did not lie here. Tang Pankui, however, was still somewhat unsatisfied. During this period, she had become the most popular woman in the village, and many people had asked her for advice on raising successful children. She experienced the joy of returning home in glory for the first time, and although it was thanks to her son, she still enjoyed it very much. On the day they left, the 2 elderly people packed a large bag full of mountain produce and rare fruits for Chen Mobai. On the long journey to Danxia City, Chen Mobai got off the bus outside the city to transfer to another bus to go to Danju Academy. He also told Tang Pankui about this. When she heard that it was actually a golden core cultivator who wanted to guide her son's cultivation, her eyes widened. Instead, she urged him to hurry up and not keep the cultivator waiting. When he arrived at the entrance of Danju Academy, a familiar person was already waiting for him. Hello, Professor Chan. Get in the car. Chansey rode a bicycle and patted the back seat. Chen Mobai hesitated for a moment, but in the end, amidst the surprised gazes of many people at the school gate, he got on the back of the bicycle and was led into the campus by Chansey. They're here. Upon arriving at a grand office in Danju Academy, the crimson-robed immortal sat on the sofa, sipping tea, and greeted Chen Mobai as he entered. I've met you in person. I heard you want to switch to the Pure Yang scroll. Yes, I think everyone should have dreams. My dream is to become a god. That can't be right. This is your opponent's dream from last time. How come your dream changes every day? Isn't it true that my dream of going to Jumeng Dao Academy with my friends has failed? Then, the dream of becoming the master of the immortal sect and achieving the Dao transformation are not contradictory, or rather, they complement each other. If I achieve the Dao transformation, I can become the master of the immortal sect as I please. That makes sense. After listening to Chen Mobai's words, the crimson-robed immortal nodded. Then he asked Chen Mobai about his understanding of the Pure Yang scroll. After all, there are countless cultivators in the immortal sects. Many students, after entering the Dao Academy, are blinded by the reputation of the divine transformation technique. They are arrogant and insist on cultivating it despite the fact that their spiritual roots and talents do not match. In the end, they do not even cross the threshold and waste the most valuable years of their lives. In comparison, thanks to the guidance of the primordial Yang ancestor, at least everyone can get started with the Pure Yang scroll. Chen Mobai answered every question. Facing a golden core cultivator, there was no need to hide anything, so he explained his spiritual root talent and the reasons why he wanted to switch to cultivating the Pure Yang scroll. Although your chances of achieving the nascent soul stage are less than 1 in 10,000 since you've made your decision, I won't bother discouraging you. Besides, with your spiritual root aptitude, if you want to establish your foundation or form your core, cultivating the Pure Yang Dharma body might be the best path. The red-robed master's words left Chen Mobai speechless. His spiritual root was indeed somewhat lacking. End of this chapter. Chapter 140 Foundation, Building Treasure Deduction. Chapter 140 Foundation, Building Treasure Deduction. It will take half a year to switch to the pure Yang scroll. You should talk to your family about it. You will probably have to stay here until you report to the Wuki Dao Academy. Yes, it's a real person. Chen Mobai was a little excited. After all, this was personally instructed by a golden core cultivator for half a year. In the entire Dangxia city, who else receives this kind of treatment? In other words, he left a good impression on the Crimson Robe Master during the duel, and he also chose the Dance Weapon Academy. If it were anyone else, even Qing knew, the Crimson Robe Master probably wouldn't bother with them. However, he soon realized that he had been overthinking things. The crimson-robed immortal only guided him for 3 days at the beginning, and disappeared after Chen Mobai completed the transformation of the first strand of 5 elements spiritual power. The principal is very busy, but he also said that if you encounter any difficulties, you can send him a message directly, and he will reply if he feels it is necessary. In the school cafeteria, Chen Mobai treated Chansey to a meal, and the latter talked as he ate. What a pity, I thought I could get half a year of guidance from the crimson-robed master. Chen Mobai looked regretful. You should be content. We've been enrolled for 6 years, and we've only attended 4 of the principal's classes in total, which probably doesn't even add up to a day. Shen Huangxiu, who had just returned from getting some desserts, couldn't help but feel envious and jealous when she heard Chen Mobai's words, her tone dripping with sourness. By the way, my admission notice has arrived, so I can register as a full member of Zhujibao now. Chen Mobai immediately changed the subject and took out his phone. Really hurry up, import my personal panel. Upon hearing this, Shen Huangxiu's attention was immediately drawn. Chen Mobai had already downloaded the foundation building treasure software, but he had always been a regular member. Applying to use the super brain computing power to deduce the success rate of foundation building is a function that only formal members can use. In addition to invitation codes from developers or cultivators at the core formation stage or above, official membership requires student ID numbers from the 4 major academies and 10 university palaces to activate. Chen Mobai's admission notice was in electronic format, sent directly to his phone by the official account of Wuki Dao Academy. When he opened it, a classic animation of a bamboo scroll unfolding with green background and black text popped up. Then there's his photo and the details of his admission to the Taoist Academy, and finally his student ID number. After copying it, Chen Mobai entered it into the activation sequence of the foundation building treasure. Then a pop-up appeared. I refreshed the page and went back in. The profile picture now had a red border around it. This red frame is the symbol of the Dance Weapon Academy, and the gold frame indicates that it was activated by an invitation from a golden core cultivator. Shen Huangxiu had already figured out this foundation establishment treasure thoroughly, and she excitedly guided Chen Mobai to import her personal panel. She cultivated the golden ring technique, but due to a failed foundation establishment attempt, she fell to the 8th level of qi refining and has not yet recovered. However, on the personal panel information that Shen Huangxiu gave to Chen Mobai, she directly filled in the 9th level of qi refining. Then click Next, and a window will pop up. Please select the spiritual item to add to aid in foundation building. Just select all 3 treasures for foundation establishment. Although I haven't collected them all yet, I'll definitely have them before I reach foundation establishment. Shen Huangxiu spoke with great confidence. Chen Mobai nodded and checked all the boxes for protective pulse pill, spirit enhancement powder, and qi condensation liquid. Add another giant kun blood essence and Xuanhu spirit liquid. Upon hearing this, Chen Mobai looked surprised, not expecting that Shen Huangxiu would have a way to purchase these things. Mystic Fire Elixir is a spiritual item used by the Dance Weapon Academy to assist in foundation establishment. After consumption, it can expand and nourish the meridians, increasing the probability of successful foundation establishment. Actually, no, but the foundation establishment treasure only gives you this one chance. I want to fill in everything I can think of to increase the success rate of foundation establishment and see how high my chances of success can be. When Shen Huangxiu said this, she seemed a little unsure of herself. After all, she had already failed to establish her foundation once. Using the foundation building treasure is also to give myself some confidence. Chen Mobai nodded and manually filled in the information for the 2 spiritual items as well. Then proceed to the next step. How many times has this been done to establish a foundation? What's this option? Chen Mobai and the 2 women exchanged glances, and then, after Shen Huangxiu nodded, he chose second time. Next step. What stage has the first foundation establishment reached? 1. Tendon and marrow cleansing. 2. Qi condensation and liquid transformation. 3. Spiritual consciousness leaving the body. Shen Huangxiu chose option 1 with a bit of embarrassment. She dared not cheat at this step, lest it affect the results of the super brain deduction and cause errors. Proceed to the next step. What is the level of the spiritual veins required for foundation establishment? Tier 3 mid-grade. Shen Huangxiu is wealthy. This is the highest grade spiritual vein that Danju Academy can provide to its students. Please confirm that all the above information is correct. Finally, the last step was reached. Chen Mobai placed his phone on the dining table and let Shen Huangxiu check it herself. After confirming that there were no problems, she took a deep breath and clicked Confirm. Then suddenly, a red pop-up window appeared. The user, if I were the Azure Emperor in the future's backend information, does not match the character on the data panel. Do you wish to continue the deduction for her? After this, you will need to wait 2 years before you can apply to use this software again. Shen Huangxiu immediately looked up at Chen Mobai nervously. The latter was stunned for a moment, not expecting that the software had a background verification function. However, he had already received payment and used the green bamboo pen several times, so there was no reason for him to go back on his word. Yes. He extended his finger and clicked the button. Shen Huangxiu breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at the constantly rotating animation on the foundation building treasure interface with an even more tense expression. About 2 minutes later, a huge percentage figure appeared before their eyes. Foundation establishment success rate, 39%. Upon seeing this, Chen Mobai couldn't help but frown. Even with so many conditions added, the success rate is still less than 50%. He was a little embarrassed, but he noticed that Shen Huangxiu was overjoyed, seemingly very happy with the number. Teacher Chan, is a 39% probability really that good? Chen Mobai was a little confused and asked. Without using any foundation establishment spiritual items, the probability of successfully establishing the foundation at the 9th level of Qi refining is 1 in 100, or 1%. You can imagine how high that probability of 39% really is. Chansey guided Chen Mobai to click on the foundation building treasure and read the detailed calculation. A complete set of the 3 foundation establishment treasures increases the success rate of foundation establishment by 10%. 1 bottle of Giant Kun's Essence Blood. Its effects overlap with the 3 foundation establishment treasures, increasing the success rate of foundation establishment by 6%. 1 dose of Profound Fire Elixir has overlapping effects with the Meridian Protection Pill, but also conflicts with the user's Golden Ring Technique Cultivation. It increases the foundation establishment success rate by 3%. Kai Refining Level 9 completed. Tendon and marrow cleansing completed on the first attempt. Foundation establishment success rate increased by 12%. 3rd tier mid-grade spiritual vein increases foundation establishment success rate by 8%. After reading it, Shen Huangxiu breathed a sigh of relief, but her expression was also conflicted. Among these, the Giant Kun Essence Blood and the Mysterious Fire Spirit Liquid are things she cannot buy, which means that her success rate in establishing her foundation is actually only 30%. Even so, she was already very satisfied. What Chen Mobai was thinking about was the foundation establishment pill from the Heavenly River realm. It seems that a single foundation establishment pill can guarantee a 30% success rate in establishing a foundation. End of this chapter. Chapter 140, One White Jade Bell. Chapter 140, One White Jade Bell. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to perform the simulation. Shen Huangxiu expressed her gratitude repeatedly. With the result of the Foundation building treasure, she would at least no longer be anxious about gains and losses. Yes, I got what I wanted. Chen Mobai shook his head. Perhaps for others, the opportunity to deduce the Foundation establishment treasure was priceless, but for him, it was just a matter of acting as a proxy. After chatting for a while, the three parted ways. Chen Mobai has been busy converting his 5-element spiritual power recently. He usually stays in seclusion in the cave he rented during the previous battles, and he has renewed the lease for another 6 months. The Pure Yang Scroll truly lives up to its reputation as one of the 7 great nascent soul cultivation techniques of the immortal sects. The spiritual power cultivated from it is much purer and more abundant than that of the 5 elements technique, and the energy circulation path is also several times more complex. It was at this moment that Chen Mobai realized that switching cultivation methods was much more difficult than abandoning one and starting over. To rebuild from scratch, one only needs to discard spiritual energy to easily switch to a new cultivation method. However, transforming the spiritual energy cultivated through one technique into another requires far more effort and a greater grasp of the techniques than starting from scratch. If it weren't for the presence of the crimson-robed master, who guided Chen Mobai step by step through the transformation of his first wisp of spiritual energy, given his own comprehension and talent, it would have taken him at least a month or two, and he might have even suffered irreversible consequences due to a misunderstanding of the technique. Having completed the first strand of the Pure Yang Scroll's spiritual energy conversion, Chen Mobai had overcome the most difficult beginning. All that remained was a matter of patience and perseverance. Fortunately, the immortal sect ensured that the spiritual energy cultivated by the basic 5 elements technique was the most balanced and harmonious, allowing it to be transformed into any cultivation method without hindrance. Otherwise, if Chen Mobai wanted to switch to the Pure Yang Scroll, he would have had no choice but to abandon his cultivation and start over. But if that's really the case, Chen Mobai would definitely go all the way down this path and specialize in the 5 elements technique. At worst, I can do what Master Kingping did and win through my spiritual realm. That night, after completing the spiritual energy conversion, Chen Mobai, in his room, used the turtle treasure to teleport to the heavenly river realm again, carrying a series of talismans he had just purchased online. First, Chen Mobai used a spirit-finding talisman to confirm that there were no demonic beasts near the cave, before carefully lifting the lid of the cave entrance. After stepping out, looking at the desolate Qingguang Island under the starry sky, he couldn't help but sigh. Not knowing whether the black plague birds would come to forage at night, Chen Mobai carefully took out 3 talismans and affixed them to his body, one for concealing his aura, the other for hiding his form, and the other for levitation. Last time, he simply went to 2 places, the center of Qingguang Island and the location of the spirit tree that his team had previously guarded. Even if the vast Qingguang Island had been ravaged by demonic beasts, there should still be some lucky survivors. Chen Mobai wanted to know what had happened. He floated like a dark cloud from the collapsed wooden house, first heading to the center of Qingguang Island, where the Shenmu sect's teleportation array was located. Along the way, countless magical artifacts were broken and shattered. It's a pity there are no storage bags. Otherwise, if these things were taken back to Earth Origin Star, even if they were sold to those geomancers who recycle scrap, they would earn a lot of merit. If one has access to a weapon refiner, these damaged magical artifacts can be completely recycled and have their raw materials extracted. In the last 100 years, the prices of all raw materials in the immortal sects, whether metals, refined gold, spiritual wood, jade, or minerals, have been rising. However, the origin of these damaged magical artifacts was difficult to explain, and in order to avoid being exposed by the immortal sects, Chen Mobai had no choice but to give up collecting junk. Somewhat unwillingly, he walked from the ruins of the market town at the bottom of the island to the teleportation array hall at the top, picking and choosing, picking up and throwing away. But all the magical artifacts were completely broken and had lost their spiritual light. Just as he was about to give up and go to the main hall to take a look, a red rope stained with mud caught his attention. At this moment, between the bluestone slabs of the market street, Chen Mobai reached out, pinched the end of the thread, and gently pulled it. Ring, ring. The crisp, melodious bell rang, instantly calming Chen Mobai's anxious mood, which had been somewhat agitated by his lack of success. A faint jade-like luster, tinged with a creamy white, caught his eye. These are a pair of exquisite white jade bells strung together with a red thread that has been wrapped around several strands. Chen Mobai immediately played a mute note, fearing that the sound of the bell would attract the attention of the black plague bird, and at the same time found a secluded place to hide. Although this is the very center of the island, far from the reefs where those monsters dwell, the sound of the bell could never possibly reach there. But it's better to be safe than sorry. These black plague birds are born with the ability to control the wind. Maybe the vibration of the bell here was detected by some gifted monster. With this in mind, the usually cautious Chen Mobai no longer hesitated. He returned the way he came, and inside his cave pressed the return to city button. It shimmered with silver light. Holding the pair of white jade bells, Chen Mobai had already returned to his cave dwelling at Danju Academy. He cast a cleaning spell, and instantly the two bells, which had been covered in mud, shone brightly again, clear and translucent. The red string that was strung together was also exceptionally bright, appearing as red as if it were on fire against the backdrop of the white jade. As a boy, Chen Mobai also found himself quite fond of this exquisite magical artifact. He shook it gently, and the two bells instantly emitted a clear and pleasant sound, as well as a sound of annoyance and frustration, making him feel extremely awkward. It seems that these two bells have different functions. One should calm the mind, while the other may cause restlessness. Chen Mobai dared not inject spiritual power to test it, in case the power of this magical artifact exceeded his imagination and injured his mind. You should consult a professional. He took out his phone and took more than a dozen photos of the pair of white jade bells from all angles, then sent them to Wu Wan. The next day, Wu Wan went directly to Danju Academy. "Master Wu, why did you come here in person?" When Chen Mobai opened the door and saw him, he was very surprised. "Brother Chen, as a disciple of the Dance Weapon Academy, your status is now quite different from before. It is my honor that you would think of me, Wu. How could I keep you waiting?" Wu Wan's current demeanor is completely different, which makes Chen Mobai feel a little uncomfortable. No, let's just stay the same as before. I feel really uncomfortable with you like this." Chen Mobai immediately welcomed Wu Wan in, then took the pair of white jade bells from beside the pillow, casually placed them on the table, and handed them over. Her body was like solidified fat, and her inner radiance was blue. Wu Wan first visually assessed the jade's quality and color, then put on gloves before daring to pick it up and examine it carefully. After a long pause, he gave a four-word comment in amazement. "White, translucent, fine, and moisturizing." Seeing Wu Wan's unprecedented expression, Chen Mobai knew that this magical artifact might be very good, and that he had probably found a treasure. "Master Wu, what is the grade and quality of these bells? To what level can you appraise them?" Now that he has money, Chen Mobai naturally hopes that Wu Wan can thoroughly appraise the pair of bells, and ideally deduce the methods of refining and using them, so that he can truly master them. If I'm not mistaken, the raw material for this magic artifact should be second-tier flowing jade, but the cultivator who refined it is too inferior, only at the first-tier high-grade level. It's such a waste. End of this chapter. Chapter 142, Fu Cheng. Chapter 142, Fu Cheng. I am, after all, a registered first-level appraiser of the immortal sect. Although this white jade bell is relatively obscure, as long as it is still within the first-level category, completing the third-level appraisal should not be a problem. Wu Wan spoke with great confidence, and Chen Mobai breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Wu Wan did not ask about the origin of the magic artifact. The price is a bit on the expensive side. At this point, Wu Wan seemed afraid that Chen Mobai would misunderstand, so he immediately explained. Because it involves ritual implements related to sound, I need to look up some information and may need to consult a senior in the industry. I will definitely have to give a token of appreciation. But don't worry, Brother Chen, it won't exceed 8,000 merits at most. Speaking of the Tao of Sound, Chen Mobai thought of Bayan Yiking, who was a grandmaster in this field. However, he certainly wouldn't dare to take this magic artifact to Bayan Yiking for appraisal. Wu Wan had collaborated with Chen Mobai several times, and even though the first impression wasn't good, Chen Mobai was quite satisfied with the subsequent collaborations. However, the appraisal fee of 8,000 merits still felt a bit expensive to him, even though Chen Mobai currently had over 100,000 merits in his account. However, thinking of it as if I had used 8,000 merits to buy this first-grade superior bell magic weapon made me feel much better. As long as Master Wu can complete the third-level appraisal, we'll go with the price you mentioned. Okay, let's sign a standard contract first. The third level of identification requires deducing the methods used in the ritual and the process itself, which cannot be completed in a short time. Wu Wan needs to bring the white jade bell back, and he may need to use specialized equipment. In response to this situation, the immortal sects have standardized contracts to prevent appraisers from becoming greedy upon seeing the preciousness of magical artifacts, either by taking them away and disappearing, or by replacing them with fakes. Chen Mobai believed that Wu Wan would definitely not do such a thing, not because he knew Wu Wan's character, but because if such a thing happened, the appraiser's registration certificate would be revoked directly. While the white jade bell may be quite valuable, it certainly can't compare to the level 1 appraiser certificate that Wu Wan worked so hard to obtain. Even if his gold shop went bankrupt, Wu Wan, with this certificate, could still find work outside, and many weapon refining shops would be vying for him with 10,000 merit points a month. After the two signed, Wu Wanjia affixed his professional seal, attached a photo of the ritual implement, and then uploaded the standard contract to the Xianmen website for backup. At most 10 days. After receiving the deposit from Chen Mobai, Wu Wan patted his chest and made a guarantee. By the way, Brother Chen, are you free at noon? I invited Luan Jingsheng to lunch. Why don't we join each other? Luan Jingsheng was the Danju Academy student who sold the 5 transformations umbrella to Chen Mobai last time. He was also Wu Wan's customer. Wu Wan took a large cut from the last deal. Since he was here, he naturally wanted to reconnect with Wu Wan. That's fine. I happen to have some questions about talismans and would like to ask an expert for advice. Chen Mobai originally wanted to refuse, but he thought of his experience a few days ago when he could not draw talismans successfully no matter what he tried, and felt that he could not work behind closed doors. He also asked Chan Si and Shen Huangxiu, but the former was currently focused on formations, and the latter was only thinking about foundation establishment. Although they knew a little about talismans, they could not help Chen Mobai. The student council president from Danju Academy was a master of talisman drawing, but Chen Mobai wasn't familiar with him. Chan Si wanted to introduce them, but the former was a reclusive madman who hadn't come out of his cave since the entrance exam. Since Luan Jingsheng was able to refine the 5 transformations umbrella, it is evident that his skill in talismans is not low. Chen Mobai had completely forgotten about him. If Wu Wan hadn't mentioned him today, he really wouldn't have thought that there was still an acquaintance in Danju Academy with whom he could seek advice. Oh, with your talent, how could you keep failing? It must be an extremely complex and difficult talisman to draw. In a small restaurant on the campus of Danju Academy, Luan Jingsheng was very surprised to see Chen Mobai coming with Wu Wan. Although he didn't watch the final round of the last entrance exam, he easily learned about Chen Mobai, the victor of magic, who was personally praised by the Crimson Robe Master from the subsequent flood of posts on his WeChat moments. Being able to enter one of the 4 major academies is basically considered a foundation-building true cultivator. If things go smoothly in the future, becoming the second crimson-robed true man and returning home in glory is not impossible. Therefore, Luan Jingsheng was somewhat surprised that a genius like Chen Mobai would come to ask him for advice on drawing talismans. Not at all, I only have a little talent in combat. As for the art of talisman drawing, I haven't even entered the threshold yet. I still need your guidance, brother Luan. Chen Mobai treated everyone to the meal, and Luan Jingsheng was very generous. After the meal, he took Chen Mobai directly to a large classroom at Danju Academy that was dedicated to drawing talismans. Having saved money on a meal and even gotten a free meal, Wu Wan left with a smile, as he was busy appraising the white jade bell. Draw it once so I can see it. Chen Mobai obediently put away the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone he had brought, and then began to write. After finishing the drawing, I infused it with spiritual power. With a poof sound, it failed again. He looked at Luan Jingsheng with an embarrassed expression, but the latter was thinking seriously. He looked at the drawing method of the resurrection talisman provided by Chen Mobai and drew it himself. Luan Jingsheng paused halfway through the drawing. Then he continued drawing, but the final product was also a failure. But Luan Jingsheng's expression did not change. He took out another talisman and then picked up his brush again. This time it was done in one go, without any pauses. Chen Mobai looked admiring. He knew without even trying that the resurrection talisman had been successfully drawn. That's a bit strange. But after finishing the drawing, Luan Jingsheng frowned slightly. What's strange about it? Didn't we succeed? The turns in the strokes here are too sharp. There are clearly better techniques for turning the brush. As Chen Mobai stared wide-eyed in disbelief, Luan Jingsheng dipped his brush in ink and drew the Su Sheng Fu talisman again. Halfway through the drawing, the brushstroke at the point where he had paused earlier actually changed its turning point, making it more rounded and simple. It's much more comfortable to write like this. After finishing the improved version of the resurrection talisman, Luan Jingsheng nodded in satisfaction. Try this one that I've modified. Chen Mobai nodded respectfully, then took the last talisman Luan Jingsheng had drawn and began to imitate his handwriting. But two more failed. However, having someone guide you is completely different from figuring it out on your own. Just like when he switched to cultivating the pure Yang scroll and had the guidance of the crimson-robed immortal on the third time, when Luan Jingsheng saw Chen Mobai's stiff hand movements, he couldn't help but directly grasp his wrist and guide him to feel the correct strokes. This time it was a success. Chen Mobai's face lit up with joy. Although he failed again immediately, the next time, he finally succeeded in drawing the resurrection talisman on his own. Picking up the talisman he had drawn himself, Chen Mobai infused it with spiritual power and activated it. Feeling the spiritual power in his body, which had been depleted from drawing the talisman, slowly recover, Chen Mobai couldn't help but feel joy. We finally succeeded. End of this chapter. Chapter 143, Brass Ring. Chapter 143, Brass Ring. Chen Mobai was overjoyed after completing the drawing of his first talisman. Riding on this feeling of success, he drew 10 more pictures in a row, failing 3 times and succeeding 7 times. Just as he was about to continue consolidating his strength, he felt a wave of dizziness. Although drawing talismans does not consume much spiritual energy, it is extremely mentally taxing. One must not exceed one's limits and needs to balance work and rest. Luan Jingsheng, who was standing to the side, stopped Chen Mobai from continuing to draw and explained the reason behind it. Thank you. Chen Mobai stopped, looked outside and saw that it was getting late, so he took Luan Jingsheng to have dinner. After returning to his cave, he did not go to Qingguang Island in the Tian realm, but instead rested well for a night using the nourishing mind and forging spirit technique. Early the next morning, as the sun rose, he continued to transform pure Yang spiritual energy. Chen Mobai had completed a small portion of the 5 elements technique's spiritual energy conversion. His divine sense was circulating, and the spiritual energy vortex in his dantian had split in 2. Following the route of the pure Yang scroll's qi refining chapter, Chen Mobai slowly opened his eyes after refining the rich spiritual energy gathered after consuming the chi-replenishing spiritual water into the small spiritual energy vortex. After finishing my practice, I checked the time and found it was still early. He took out his brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, and began to draw the resurrection talisman once again. A night's rest and half a day of practice left him in excellent condition, and he succeeded on his first 3 attempts. On the 4th attempt, due to carelessness in not dipping the brush in enough ink, the lines suddenly faded as he drew the later strokes, resulting in failure. However, Chen Mobai didn't care about this. He felt he had mastered the talisman, and after successfully drawing another one with the ink, he put down the green bamboo brush. Drawing talismans is very mentally taxing, and after drawing 5 in a row, he felt a little tired. After lunch, he meditated to regain his energy, closed the door, and took out his phone to teleport back to Qingguang Island in the Tian realm. The discovery of the white jade bell greatly fueled Chen Mobai's enthusiasm for collecting things. He sensed that there were still many undamaged magical artifacts scattered around Qingguang Island. Last time, he came at night to conceal his presence, as his field of vision was limited. This time, he simply teleported over during the day. After exiting the cave, Chen Mobai applied 3 concealment talismans to his body, then retraced the route he had searched before. He spent the entire afternoon meticulously searching the mostly collapsed market town, but his luck ran out. Nothing was gained. The main problem was that too many wooden houses in the market had collapsed, and he dared not make any major moves. The noise of lifting the wooden planks and stones might attract the attention of the Black Plague bird. He can come to this place an unlimited number of times and search slowly. Although it's a bit slow, he'll eventually be able to search it all. As the sun was about to set, Chen Mobai arrived at the location of the Shenmu sect's teleportation array. The fighting was definitely most intense in this area. The ground was still dark red, and above that were the mountain peaks that had been gnawed away, which was the source of the Azure Light Island spiritual vein, a third-order spiritual vein that the Divine Wood sect had cultivated at the cost of tens of thousands of spirit stones. It's a pity that it's gone now. We don't know if the people of the Divine Wood sect used the Heavenly Wood Divine Light Array to drain the spiritual veins, or if it was destroyed by a powerful demon beast that came to the island. Chen Mobai walked along the edge of the ruins of the spiritual vein, which had been gnawed into huge pits, resembling a volcano crater. Here he found something new. A faint golden glow flickered in the soil and caught my eye. Hurled. His gaze shifted to the inside of the pit, carefully examining the golden luster. Fortunately, it was daytime when he came over, and the afterglow of the setting sun fell on the object, making it shimmer with a tiny, inconspicuous light. Chen Mobai walked over and saw it just then. All I can say is that they were extremely lucky. However, just to be on the safe side, he dared not step into the pit. But there's no rope in the backpack, so how am I supposed to get that thing out? Do I have to come back tomorrow? After thinking for a while, Chen Mobai slapped his forehead and opened his needle case, which he hadn't used in a long time. A row of flying needles rose up, and under the control of the magnetic force, they crisscrossed to form a palm-sized frame. They flew into the soil where the radiance was located, scooped up the item, and brought it to their eyes. The cleansing spell was cast, the mud and sand fell away, and the golden hue revealed its true form. This is a brass ring. The workmanship is very simple, even somewhat rough. It is simply cast into a ring that can be worn on the finger. There are many scratches on the outer surface, and it is unclear whether they were there before or were caused by impacts later. The inside of the brass ring is very smooth. Chen Mobai stretched out a finger and pressed it. Although it was metal, it wasn't very hard and felt comfortable to press. However, he didn't dare to put it on. Who knows what this brass ring is used for? Maybe it's for restraint and suppression. They dared not inject spiritual power to test its effects. Let's take it back and have Wu Wan appraise it. Hopefully, he won't ask where this magical artifact came from. However, after Wu Wan failed to establish his foundation, his behavior still quite suited Chen Mobai's tastes. But this can't go on forever. After all, it's foreseeable that he will acquire many magical artifacts in the heavenly river realm in the future. No matter how tight-lipped Wu Wan is, the more people who know, the greater the chance of being exposed. How about we have this brass ring appraised by another expert? Or perhaps you could systematically learn about antique appraisal on your own. After putting the brass ring into his jacket pocket, a thought suddenly flashed through Chen Mobai's mind. But he immediately shook his head. He hasn't even mastered the basics of talismans yet, so how can he possibly be distracted by learning about treasure appraisal and weapon crafting? After being admitted to the Dance Weapon Academy, the next primary goal is to join the Divine Wood sect, obtain Foundation Establishment pills, and the two-phase technique, which can increase the success rate of core formation. Next, before it got completely dark, Chen Mobai circled the cave entrance again, but it seemed his luck had run out, and he didn't find any more complete magical artifacts. After returning, he messaged Wu Wan to inquire about the progress of the appraisal of the White Jade Bell. The latter seemed to be busy and did not reply until half an hour later. It was said to be more difficult than imagined, as the ritual techniques were quite unorthodox. Chen Mobai knew that it might be because the weapon refining methods in the Heavenly River realm were different from those of the Immortal sect, and he understood. He told him not to rush and to take his time. However, this means that Wu Wan definitely cannot have the brass ring appraised in the short term. Let him focus on the White Jade Bell for now. The next month, Chen Mobai lived a simple life, practicing qi cultivation and drawing talismans at Danju Academy every day, and also diligently going to Qingguang Island in Tianhe realm to collect things. But apart from a blue handkerchief with a pattern, there was nothing else to be found. As for drawing talismans, he hadn't made much progress either, so he had to consult Luan Jingsheng again. The latter carefully examined the remaining 4 types of life talismans of the Divine Wood sect and discovered something that greatly surprised Chen Mobai. End of this chapter. Chapter 144, The Routine. Chapter 144, The Routine. Where did you get the method for drawing these talismans? What's wrong? Seeing Luan Jingsheng's slightly solemn expression, Chen Mobai felt a little uneasy, thinking that he had realized that these talismans were not from the Immortal sect. I felt something was off about that resurrection talisman before. It could have been drawn more simply and easily, but the strokes had too many twists and turns. I initially thought it was a printing error in the textbook you received. But now we see these 4 pictures that are clearly a set. One of the strokes in each picture has been changed. It's not that the strokes have been changed into mistakes, but the failure rate of drawing them after the changes is very high, making it more difficult for people who practice drawing by looking at these teaching materials to learn. For someone like me who has already reached the first level of talisman making, it's okay. I can force myself to draw it based on my usual learning skills, but if a beginner tries to follow the instructions in this textbook, it will probably take at least 1.5 years to get started. After hearing Luan Jingsheng's words, Chen Mobai was stunned. He recalled how hard he had practiced every day in Qingshan village, but had not succeeded in drawing a single picture. He had initially thought that he did not have the talent for it, and his confidence had been shaken. I never expected it to be like this. The book, Shen Musek's talisman-making experience, that he obtained from Nangxi Market had actually been tampered with. All 5 methods for drawing life talismans had been altered. This would not only waste the time of independent cultivators who wanted to learn from it, but might also undermine the confidence of some independent cultivators who wanted to join the Shenmu sect. I wonder if Lu Shu, who gave him this book, knew this. If he knew, then it means that Chen Mobai was too naive and failed to see that this guy was a truly wicked and treacherous person. Chen Mobai instinctively believed that Lu Shu was unaware of this and had probably been deceived. However, when he thought about the infighting among the rogue cultivators in the Heavenly River realm, he felt that perhaps he had misjudged them. With 1,000 thoughts swirling in his mind, Chen Mobai finally managed to calm himself down using the Nourishing Mind and Forging Spirit technique. Thank you, Brother Luan. I found these 5 talisman drawing books at a street stall. They looked quite ancient and I thought I had struck gold. I never expected this. Chen Mobai dared not tell Luan Jingsheng the truth, and could only sigh and make up a reason that the latter would believe. I'll try to draw it and correct the strokes for you. Come see me tomorrow. Luan Jingsheng was also an upright person, and since Chen Mobai had approached him, he was happy to help. Thank you. In response, Chen Mobai could only thank him again and then treat him to a meal. If you want to learn talismans in the future, you will still need to buy formal textbooks. I still have the 3 basic talisman books published by Danju Academy. I can give you the ones you need. It's best to buy fewer of these 3 no products, no ISBN, no production date, no manufacturer from street stalls in the future. They're mostly fake and are designed to scam students who think they've found a bargain. After several interactions, Luan Jingsheng also came to regard Chen Mobai as a friend, and during meals, he would give him heartfelt advice. Brother Luan is right, I will never buy it again. As Chen Mobai spoke, he hesitated, but in the end he couldn't help but take out the notes on refining the Crimson Flame sword talisman that Qi Rui had given him, and ask Luan Jingsheng to take a look. I really don't dare to trust the cultivators of the Heavenly River realm too much anymore. Actually, the reason I trusted that stall owner was because I really found some good stuff. The Crimson Flame 3 Swords Talisman that I used to fight the Heavenly Heart Sword Talisman was bought from that street stall. It also came with a drawing tutorial. Could you take another look at this and see if there are any problems? Upon hearing this, Luan Jingsheng looked surprised. He had seen the magnificent scene of the Heavenly Heart Sword Talisman and the Crimson Flame 3 Sword Talisman clashing on the arena in his WeChat moments. Unexpectedly, it was found by Chen Mobai at a street stall. His previously nonchalant attitude instantly became serious, and he picked up his phone to look at the screenshots of the Crimson Flame Sword Talisman crafting notes that Chen Mobai had sent him. Judging from the strokes, this first-grade high-level talisman is not as abrupt as the previous 5. However, whether there is a problem or not, we still need to draw it ourselves to know. But my skill level is limited. I have only mastered 3 first-grade high-level talismans. If I want to learn this Crimson Flame Sword Talisman, I'm afraid I will need to concentrate for at least a month. If you're not in a hurry, I'll try to draw it for you once I've finished refining another talisman. Upon hearing this, Chen Mobai immediately shook his head. How can I take up so much of your time? With my skill level, it would take me at least 1 or 2 years of basic practice to draw this Crimson Flame Sword Talisman. You can figure it out on your own by then. Luan Jingsheng nodded in agreement. He cultivates both talismans and artifacts, but he focuses more on artifact crafting. For him, truly understanding and mastering the Crimson Flame Sword Talisman would be a waste of time. The next day, Chen Mobai personally visited Luan Jingsheng and obtained the remaining 4 types of life symbols, which he had revised and whose strokes were now correct. The latter even carefully drew one of each type, so that Chen could refer to it if he didn't understand. Chen Mobai was very touched, but he was too embarrassed to give the merit, so he could only give him 2 tubes of first-grade high-quality, qi-replenishing spiritual water. Luan Jingsheng initially refused, but after repeated declines, he reluctantly accepted it. When Chen Mobai left, he insisted on giving him 3 basic talisman books filled with his own annotations. With the correct sample as a reference, Chen Mobai's talisman-making skills immediately improved, and he successfully drew all 5 of the most basic life-giving talismans of the Divine Wood sect within just 10 days. He finally realized that he actually had some talent in talisman making, and the reason he had failed so many times before was entirely because he had been misled by the wrong teaching materials. It can only be said that the waters of the Heavenly River realm are too deep, and he has suffered too few losses. However, after this incident, Chen Mobai finally understood why the shops opened by major sects in the market of Tianhu realm were so expensive. At least they will guarantee that what they sell is correct. If you buy a cultivation technique with the same name but at a cheaper price at a stall, it might be a trick released by someone with ulterior motives who changed a few key sentences to harm independent cultivators. The heavenly river realm is indeed fraught with danger. Chen Mobai learned from his mistake and was glad that he hadn't practiced the black water technique. Otherwise, he might have been tricked. Just as he was preparing to go to Qingguang Island to retrieve his belongings again, Wu Wan arrived at his door, his face beaming. The ritualistic process of the white jade bell was successfully reversed. End of this chapter. Chapter 145, Suppressing Gods, Bewitching Gods. Chapter 145, Suppressing Gods, Bewitching Gods. Wu Wan has been busy appraising the pair of white jade bells all this time. With the help of professional instruments and equipment, and after consulting with experts in the field, we finally completed all the identification work yesterday. As expected, here you go. Chen Mobai took the certificate of authenticity from Wu Wan and opened it to find that there were more than a dozen additional pages attached. Besides the raw materials, crafting techniques, lifespan, and condition of the pair of white jade bells, what is written above is the most important part, the method of refining and using them. These two white jade bells have different functions. One can calm the spirits, and the other can bewitch them. The function of suppressing the spirit is not simply to suppress the mind and keep the mind in the most stable state, but also to allow the user to better control the rapidly increasing spiritual consciousness in a short period of time. As for the bewitching bell, it is as the name suggests. It can make people who hear the bell feel disturbed. If someone with low cultivation level hears it while meditating or practicing qi cultivation, it may even cause them to go into a state of demonic possession. Of course, these bells seem to have been overworked. Although the surface is intact, some cracks can still be seen inside under a microscope. So these two functions may also have a limit. It is best not to exceed the qi refining level. After Wu Wan finished his detailed explanation, Chen Mobai couldn't wait to use the sacrificial technique he had deduced to inject his spiritual power into the white jade bell. After a simple ritual, he activated the function of the two magical artifacts. Ring ring. First came the bewitching sensation. The instant he heard the bell, Chen Mobai felt nauseous and dizzy. Sharp. You should know that, although he was only at the 7th level of qi refining, his divine sense was extremely stable. Even Yang Jing's killing move could not shake him. Unexpectedly, just a magic weapon was enough to make him feel overwhelmed. No wonder cultivators in the heavenly river realm, no matter how low their cultivation level is, still want to acquire a magic artifact for themselves. Having a magical artifact versus not having one, especially at the qi refining stage, makes a huge difference in combat ability. Ding dong. Chen Mobai then activated the suppressing god bell again, and he and Wu Wan immediately recovered from their dizziness. In fact, they were even more energetic than before, like waking up in the morning after a deep sleep, with an unprecedentedly good mental state. Not bad, not bad, even more impressive than I imagined. After admiring the pair of beautiful and practical white jade bells for a while, Chen Mobai transferred the remaining balance of the appraisal payment to Wu Wan with satisfaction. Master Wu, I have 2 more magical artifacts here that I need to trouble you with again. In the end, Chen Mobai took out the brass ring and the patterned blue handkerchief he had picked up from Qingguang Island and handed them over to Wu Wan for appraisal. The latter looked surprised, but immediately beamed with joy. These 3 contracts alone in this month are enough to earn the equivalent of a whole quarter's worth of good deeds in the past. After all, Wu Wan didn't have a registered business with those large weapon refining shops. He worked independently, and in the past, he might not get a job appraising magical artifacts even once a month. He put on gloves and took the blue patterned handkerchief that Chen Mobai handed him. Unfold the handkerchief, and inside is a slightly rough brass ring. After a closer look, the green handkerchief was all right. It was merely a mid-grade first-tier defensive magic weapon, its power probably equivalent to a wooden armor talisman, but it could be reused repeatedly. If Wu Wan were willing, he could complete the appraisal of this blue handkerchief on the spot. However, this brass ring proved to be a bit of a challenge for him. This raw material seems to be made by melting red copper with other metals mixed in. Judging from the method, it should be an ancient forging process, not a modern element blending. We may need to use the special particle measuring machine at the Crimson Cloud Academy to determine the proportion of all the materials. Wu Wan's words made Chen Mobai a little uneasy. The origin of this thing is already a bit strange. If we take it to the laboratory at Crimson Cloud Academy to have its material elements analyzed, wouldn't that potentially reveal a material that the immortal sect doesn't have? Without testing the raw materials, can we identify it up to the third level and deduce the methods of its refinement and use? He asked a question, and Wu Wan was slightly taken aback, but since it was the client's request, he didn't say much and nodded readily. Generally, third-level appraisals require the raw material ratios, but if you don't care, I won't bother. In comparison, the refining and application methods are simpler. Then let's do it this way. I need these 2 magical artifacts urgently. How quickly can you complete the appraisal? Let's keep it to 10 days. This handkerchief isn't difficult to make, and there's only 1 ring. It'll definitely be faster than those 2 white jade bells. Hearing Wu Wan's confident words, Chen Mobai nodded and immediately transferred the deposit to him. I went to the school gate to print out a contract. I didn't expect to get 2 more orders here. I wasn't prepared. Wu Wan first drafted an electronic version and showed it to Chen Mobai for feedback. The latter originally intended not to sign the contract, as he didn't want anything from the Heavenly River realm to leave a trace on the immortal sect's side. But upon closer reflection, he realized that there were countless cultivators in the immortal sects full of ingenious ideas, and countless strange magical artifacts were created on video websites every day just to attract attention. He had only taken out 3 normal magical artifacts, so there was no need to be so afraid of everything. Moreover, if we don't sign a contract with Wu Wan, given his shrewd nature, he will definitely be able to guess that the origin of these magical artifacts is problematic. Let's just follow the proper procedures to avoid arousing suspicion. After signing the contract, the 2 invited Luan Jingsheng to have a meal together. Afterwards, Chen Mobai returned to his cave dwelling and devoted himself to cultivating the pure yang scroll and drawing talismans. The blue handkerchief was quickly identified as being for defensive purposes. It didn't even require any special refining techniques. Simply injecting spiritual energy into it would transform it into a blue square shield. The range depends on the user's spiritual power and can cover the entire person at most. The brass ring was a bit troublesome. Wu Wan underestimated this magical artifact, and it wasn't until half a month later, with dark circles under his eyes, that he finally completed the 3rd level of appraisal. This is a magical artifact that condenses sword energy, but it is more suitable for cultivators with metal-type spiritual power. After spiritual power is injected into it according to a specific method, it will burst out with a sharp sword light. Chen Mobai tried it out, and its power was equivalent to a first-grade high-level Crimson Flame sword talisman. However, it consumes a lot of spiritual energy, and at his level, he can only activate it 7 times at most. Although I haven't tested it, I feel that the maximum limit of this ring should be the ability to unleash 9 swords in succession. It might even be like the 3 swords talisman you used during the battle. After the 9 sword lights are released at the same time, a subtle change can be formed, triggering an even more powerful sword energy. Wu Wan wrote down everything he had identified on the certificate, and after reading it, Chen Mobai couldn't help but admire his professional level. End of this chapter. Chapter 146 Half a Year. Chapter 146 Half a Year. Half a year passed quickly. During the process of switching to the pure yang scroll, Chen Mobai encountered several problems that he could not solve on his own, but after receiving guidance from the Crimson Robe Master, he finally completed the foundation of the pure yang scroll. That's right. Next, you just need to follow the pure yang qi refining chapter step by step and convert the remaining 5 elements qi in your qi si. On this day, atop a certain peak of Danju Academy, the crimson-robed immortal withdrew his right hand from Chen Mobai's dantian, seemingly relieved, and nodded gently. "You've really had a tough time lately." Chen Mobai immediately got up from the meditation cushion and thanked the golden core cultivator in front of him. "As a teacher at the Dance Weapon Academy, it is only right that I guide you." The red-robed master shook his head slightly, but did not move, and calmly accepted Chen Mobai's bow. Does the true person also cultivate the pure Yang scripture? Over the past 6 months, Chen Mobai has also discovered that the crimson-robed true man has a very good understanding of the pure Yang scroll and can even be said to be an expert in it. He was able to foresee all the difficulties that would arise when switching to this cultivation method and informed Chen Mobai of them. It was as if he had experienced it himself, which is why Chen Mobai asked this question. "When I was practicing qi refining and foundation establishment, I did indeed practice the pure Yang scroll. However, in order to have more time to form the core, I switched to the burning heaven technique, which is derived from the pure Yang scroll." The red-robed master did not shy away from the topic and casually recounted his cultivation experience. 100 years ago, he entered the Wuki Dao Academy with the highest score in Dengxia City. At that time, he was still practicing the 5 elements technique. After entering the Taoist Academy, a total of 36 students in that year chose to switch to the pure Yang scripture. But in the end, only he and another Shao Yang true man were able to successfully form the golden core. He was able to successfully form his core because he realized that if he tried to cultivate the pure Yang Dharma body and enhance his fire spiritual root attribute while simultaneously breaking through his cultivation realm, he might end up dying of old age. Therefore, after reaching the foundation establishment stage, he decisively stopped cultivating the pure Yang Dharma body and focused on improving his realm with the burning heaven technique. Such a resolute mindset enabled the crimson-robed true man, who was originally just an ordinary talent among that year's students, to successfully form his core on his first attempt, and now he even has the possibility of forming his nascent soul. What the master meant was that I should not be too obsessed with the reputation of the pure Yang scroll's nascent soul cultivation technique. If I realize that I may not be able to break through the realm before my lifespan runs out, I need to give it up immediately. Chen Mobai thought he understood the meaning behind the words of the crimson-robed master, but the latter simply smiled and shook his head. "Don't overthink it. For you, the most important thing right now is to build your foundation. To be honest, your progress is much slower than I expected. You should have completely eliminated the foundation of your 5 elements technique in half a year, instead of being only at the 4th level of qi refining." Yes, it's a real person. Chen Mobai felt somewhat ashamed after hearing these words. Even within the Danju Academy, his spiritual talent was only considered above average. Over the past 6 months, under the guidance of the Crimson Robe Master, he transformed the foundation of his 5 elements technique into pure Yang spiritual power, and only yesterday did he reach the 4th level of qi refining. However, his 5 elements technique was still at the 7th level of qi refining. This was not only because his spiritual root was average and his progress in cultivating the pure Yang scroll was too slow, but also because he used qi-replenishing spiritual water to improve himself every day. This was the method taught to him by the Crimson Robe Master, because from the beginning he had discovered that Chen Mobai's 5 elements power, enhanced by the qi-replenishing spiritual water, was unstable and extremely superficial. Realizing this, the crimson-robed master did not have Chen Mobai cultivate the pure Yang scroll to absorb spiritual energy and increase his spiritual power. Instead, he had him maintain the foundation of the 5 elements technique with qi-replenishing spiritual water, and then use the method he taught to convert it into pure Yang spiritual power. In this way, the foundation of the pure Yang scroll he cultivated was extremely solid. Just like loose soil being rolled over by a road roller, it becomes incredibly compacted and extremely pure. All right, unless something else comes up, we probably won't see each other again. Our fate ends here. After saying this, the crimson-robed immortal looked at the sun that had fully risen on the horizon, circulated his energy to refine the rising purple aura of the day, and then stood up and stepped into the clouds on the mountaintop. Although you did not accept me as your disciple, I have already regarded you as my master in my heart." Seeing the red-robed master disappear into the clouds, Chen Mobai respectfully bowed to him as a teacher. When he looked up, the red-robed master had already disappeared. In fact, they had only met 6 times in the past 6 months. But every time the crimson-robed immortal appeared, he was able to easily resolve Chen Mobai's doubts about cultivation, or even give him a wake-up call, pointing him in the right direction for cultivation. If possible, Chen Mobai truly hoped to improve himself under the guidance of the crimson-robed immortal forever. Unfortunately, happy times are always short-lived. Today is the day he leaves Danju Academy, not only because half a year has passed, but also because tomorrow is New Year's Eve. A month after the new year, it will be the start of the new semester at the Dance Weapon Academy. Chen Mobai will then prepare to leave Dangxia City and head to Chicheng Cave Heaven. Unlike junior and senior high school, university does not have winter and summer vacations. Instead, the entire year is considered a semester. That's why Chen Mobai was able to stay at Danju Academy for half a year without worry. However, he was able to receive early instruction from the teaching staff of the Dance Weapon Academy. Not every new student is able to receive half a year of attention and hands-on teaching from a golden core true person. With the Lunar New Year approaching, there were no students left at Danju Academy. Shen Huangxiu and Luan Jingsheng had returned home half a month ago. Chan Si, who came from out of town, had bought a ticket and left a month ago. After packing his luggage by himself, Chen Mobai put the stack of talismans he had drawn on the table into his sleeve, and then went to the teacher on duty to complete the lease termination procedures. "Don't forget what you've got." After the teacher on duty took back the keys, she gave a reminder. "Thank you, teacher, I've brought them all." After having breakfast at the school gate, Chen Mobai took the earliest bus and traveled for nearly 2 hours before finally arriving home. It's a pity that Chen Xinglan won't be coming back for the Chinese New Year. After Chen Mobai was admitted to the Dance Weapon Academy, he seemed to have completely let go of all his worries. After buying enough fasting pills for 2 years, he directly applied to the Crimson Cloud Academy for a closed-door retreat. Although Tang Pankui was reluctant, she knew what was important and instead told Chen Mobai not to bother Chen Xinglan unnecessarily, so that the latter could focus on his seclusion. Chen Mobai could only smile wryly at this. He was still thinking of helping his father exchange for a foundation establishment pill. Unfortunately, he hasn't even joined the Divine Wood sect yet. Even if he successfully joins the sect, according to the rules, he must become a true disciple and wait 10 years before he is eligible to exchange for a discipleship. This year, it's just my mother and me for Chinese New Year. Aren't Grandpa and Grandma coming? They are used to the warmth and life in the mountains and don't want to come to Dangxia City. Chen Mobai felt very sorry after hearing this. After dinner, Chen Mobai went upstairs. He teleported to Qingguang Island but not to pick up anything. Instead, he prepared to leave and return to the Water Palace. End of this chapter. Chapter 147, The Island. Chapter 147, The Island. After 6 months of exploration, Chen Mobai had traversed the entire Qingguang Island. 3 months ago, the flock of black-necked birds that had been lingering outside the island also migrated away, because the food in this area of water had run out. With no more reservations, Chen Mobai searched through the key markets and teleportation array locations several times. The biggest find was a storage bag found somewhere in the ruins of the collapsed market town. No one knows which unlucky soul left it behind. Maybe they were afraid that if they kept it on themselves, they would be the focus of attention during the battle, so they hid it in the house. Little did they know that the entire Qingguang Island would fall. However, Chen Mobai didn't know how to open it, and he didn't dare to ask the immortal sect about it. So I'll keep it in my possession and wait for the opportunity in the future, or until I join the Shenmu sect, then I'll think of a way to deal with it. Besides the storage bag that couldn't be opened, the other complete magical artifacts included a black iron rod, a curved knife, an axe, 5 crossbows, and 16 bottles of pills. Chen Mobai collected the pills and placed them in his underground cave. The rest were handed over to Wu Wan for appraisal, but he found that apart from the materials being somewhat valuable, the crafting techniques of these magical artifacts were exceptionally crude, and their usage was the same as that of ordinary weapons, requiring only the infusion of spiritual power. Since these items were all large, Chen Mobai was too lazy to take them with him when he left Qingguang Island, so he simply disposed of them all to Wu Wan. The total value of the merits was 138,000, which can be considered a reward for my hard work over the past 6 months. Now, with the 200,000 yuan given by Shen Huangxiu and the investment in drawing talismans over the past 6 months, he still has 320,000 yuan in good deeds in his account, which can be considered as achieving a moderately prosperous life. It's a pity that in the past 6 months, I've been busy collecting things on Qingguang Island and switching to the pure Yang scroll, so I haven't been able to fully devote myself to buying the Foundation Establishment 3 treasures on the Immortal sect network. Otherwise, my assets could have doubled again. However, this is not bad either. After all, if he succeeds in buying things in a row, it can't be explained by luck. It might attract the attention of the authorities. Over the past 6 months, Chen Mobai has searched the entire surface of Qingguang Island, feeling that there might be something underground, but he can't very well turn the whole island upside down. Moreover, the Shenmu sect will soon begin recruiting independent cultivators, so we can't waste time here. That's why he decided to leave. Using the spirit tree, Chen Mobai made a very simple raft and, carrying the 16 bottles of pills he had harvested on the island, left the desolate island that had given him so many memories. He opened the Turtle Treasure app, and a map that was mostly blank came into view. After careful consideration, Chen Mobai decided to go to the island where Nangxi Market was located first. Do you know what the situation is like there? Were they also wiped out in the monster horde? If the teleportation arrays there are destroyed, Chen Mobai will probably have to drift in Yunmeng Marsh for nearly a month before he can return to the mainland. Using a compass he had bought in advance from the Immortal sect to determine his direction, and referring to the map in the Turtle Treasure, Chen Mobai began his journey alone on a raft. It takes 3 days to get there from Qingguang Island. As dawn broke, he found a rocky outcrop, tied the raft to the shore and clicked to return to town. After spending a quiet New Year with his mother, Tang Pengqui, Chen Mobai went with her to his aunt and uncle's house. While the elders played mahjong for entertainment, he took his sister, Wang Xinying, to see a New Year's blockbuster. It tells the beautiful story of a young man who fights against heaven and earth, eventually saving his wife and growing old together. After watching it, Chen Mobai forgot all about the content, but Wang Xinying watched it with great interest, and when she left, she was still thinking about the protagonist's perseverance and loyalty to love. By the way, brother, what happened to that pretty sister-in-law from last time? Why didn't I see you bring her home? Wang Xinying's words left Chen Mobai momentarily speechless. I already said we're just ordinary friends. I understand. Seeing his sister trying not to laugh, Chen Mobai couldn't help but vigorously ruffle her hair, which was styled in double buns. Amidst her startled scream, he burst into laughter and ran away. The new year was filled with joy, as the brother and sister playfully bickered. However, Wang Xinying's words reminded Chen Mobai. He hadn't contacted Qingnu for quite some time. I wonder how she's been doing lately. Has the fire-clearing pill been successfully prepared? Yang Jing's injuries should be healed by now, right? He made the call as soon as he thought of it. The next day, it was the same grilled fish restaurant. Give. Qingnu handed a large bottle of pills to Chen Mobai. What's this? A heat-clearing pill. You've mastered it. At first, I failed many times and I couldn't even extract the medicinal materials. Later, I asked teacher Shang Qing for help. She also asked a pharmacist from Bao Ping Pharmacy to come and guide me for half a month. Then she rented me a second-grade low-level medicine cauldron. After ruining 7 batches of raw materials, I finally succeeded once. Qingnu counted on her fingers how difficult it was to refine pills, but after successfully refining a batch of King Huo pills, everything else was smooth sailing for her. All the fire-clearing pills she successfully refined over the past 6 months are here. Did you keep one for yourself? Chen Mobai took it, opened it, and counted the pills with his divine sense. There were actually 24. No, after all, we agreed that if it was successfully refined, it would all belong to you. King Nu shook her head. She was already very satisfied with gaining proficiency in alchemy. After deducting the handling fee, the 300,000 merits earned from betting were used to buy the raw materials for 14 batches of clear fire pills. There are still 12,000 merits left. I'll transfer them to you. No need. Didn't I already say I wanted to give you some money for your hard work? Consider this your reward for refining the pills. Chen Mobai refused to accept the money. He had previously told King Nu that he would pay her for each pill he made, as a way of sponsoring her tuition at Jumeng Dao Academy, when King Nu was arrested and lost her source of income. Then I won't stand on ceremony. King Nu didn't hesitate. She thanked her generously and accepted the money. By the way, could you sell me one King Huo pill? After the grilled fish was served, King Nu suddenly said something that surprised Chen Mobai. You could have given me one less pill, and I wouldn't have known. I'm not that kind of person. King Nu pouted a little angrily, and Chen Mobai immediately apologized, then opened the medicine bottle and poured out a pill for her. I bought it for Yang Jing. She cultivates a portion of divine arts, but she has some problems with her spiritual sense. As she spoke, King Nu transferred another 5,000 merit points to Chen Mobai. The latter wanted to refuse, but King Nu insisted that he accept the money. Seeing her insistence, Chen Mobai had no choice but to accept it. Oh, you guys arrived first. At that moment, Yan Bingxuan's voice rang out from behind the two of them. Beside her, Mo Simon stared in shock at Chen Mobai and King Nu, who were already seated. When you said you were having dinner with friends, did you mean with those two? Mo Simon turned to her best friend with a stiff expression and asked. Yan Bingxuan nodded gently and then pulled her to sit down. End of this chapter. Chapter 148, each with their own future. Chapter 148, each with their own future. Mo Simon didn't enjoy the meal. King Nu's expression also looked a bit strange. Only Chen Mobai and Yan Bingxuan were unaware of what was happening. They were enjoying their meal immensely. This is a spirit fish that Chen Mobai specially caught from Yunmeng Marsh. Its flesh is delicious, and with the boss's secret recipe, the taste is outstanding. By the way, when are you planning to leave? Chen Mobai naturally asked about the time to go to the Dao Academy. The Chicheng Cave heaven he was going to was not too far from Dengxia City. If he took the express train, it would only take about a day and a night. I might have to go there early because I was directly admitted and need to go through some procedures. As King Nu ate and talked, she glanced at Chen Mobai, but the latter didn't notice at all. Me too, I'm going early. Yan Bingxuan was also recommended to the Natural Academy by her great aunt. I might be a little late since it's nearby. Class monitor Mo Simon was very lucky. Although her entrance exam scores were average, she was still admitted to the Heavenly Book Academy. Chen Mobai then inquired about the situation of the other people. Unfortunately, Song Zheng did not receive an admission notice from Taiyuan Academy and ended up going to Tianchu Academy, the same academy as Mo Simon. Shi Jingjing and Cao Yaling went to Lingbao Academy together. It is said that Cao Yaling originally received an admission notice from Guangxing Academy, but she made this choice in order not to be separated from Shi Jingjing. Su Yuan and Shi Yuanqing were also mentioned. The latter originally wanted to go to the same academy as Su Yuan, but Su Yuan refused. Ultimately, after repeated persuasion from family and friends, Shi Yuanqing went to Taiyuan Academy, achieving the best result among the graduating class of 5th high school, second only to Chen Mobai. Can my sister come with you? It would be good to have someone to keep her company. Qing Nu suddenly spoke up and asked Yan Bingxuan a question, which startled the latter. Chen Mobai immediately explained that King Nu's younger sister was Yang Jing. Yan Bingxuan and Mo Simon's expressions upon hearing this were exactly the same as Chen Mobai's back then, utterly shocked. "No problem. My master originally asked me to take her with me when she left." Upon hearing this, King Nu nodded her thanks to Yan Bingxuan. Originally, King Nu wanted Yanjing to go to the Imperial Medical Academy, but on the stage, Ning Anning said, "A doctor cannot heal himself." After careful consideration, the three decided to send Yang Jing to the Natural Academy to find a solution to his problem through cultivation techniques. Kong Feiken, on the other hand, chose the Imperial Medical Academy, and with his superior grades, he quickly received an acceptance letter. Yan Qiangji of the Natural Academy felt sorry for Kong Feiken's choice, but she understood because he did it for his sister. In addition, Chen Mobai's two rivals, Gong Xiangyu and Yan Feng, went to the True Spirit Academy and the Mountain and Sea Academy, respectively. The two of them had already chosen their own paths. Unable to go to the four major academies, they did not go to the most famous Taiyuan and Chunyang, but instead chose the academy that was most suitable for their own progress in cultivation. They are all people with firm beliefs in the Tao. It is said that they were very unwilling to accept their defeat at the hands of someone. I hope that, when we meet again, we will both have reached the foundation establishment stage. When they parted ways, Chen Mobai offered a heartfelt blessing. "Good." King Nu spoke with a smile. "Then it might be 10 or 20 years before we see each other again." Yan Bingxuan wiped her mouth expressionlessly and uttered a lame joke. It would take her at least several more years to improve her ice spiritual root, and by the time she attempted to break through to the foundation establishment stage, that would truly be the time. Squad leader Mo Simon, though lacking confidence, still nodded. No one wants to not want to build a foundation, even if it's as difficult as climbing to the heavens. After chatting for a while, the four of them went home. In the days that followed, Chen Mobai had a get-together with his deskmate Lu Hengsheng, his deskmate Yu Shupu Jiangsu, Song Zheng, and other classmates before saying goodbye to each other. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Milky Way, after 3 days of wandering, he finally arrived at the island where Nangxi Market was located. The traces of the monster attack are clearly visible here, but thankfully there are still signs of human activity. Chen Mobai's raft had just approached when it was stopped by 2 cultivators. After some negotiation and explanation of the situation, they were finally allowed to go ashore. "Brother, you are really lucky. Of the 66 markets on the outskirts of Yunmeng Marsh, 24 were breached by demonic beasts. Very few were able to escape alive after the island was destroyed. You are the third one we have encountered here." After confirming that Chen Mobai was human and not a transformed demon beast, a cultivator sighed with regret. "I never imagined the situation would deteriorate to this extent. To my shame, after Qingguang Island was breached, I hid in the tunnel I dug for a full 6 months, only daring to come out when my supplies ran out. Oh, it seems that among the demonic beasts that breached Qingguang Island, there were no spirit-seeking birds. This cultivator's surname is Liu, and he is from a cultivation family in Nangxi Fang City." Chen Mobai asked what the spirit-seeking bird was. "This kind of monster, like the treasure-hunting rat, is extremely sensitive to spiritual energy. Second-tier and above demonic beasts already possess intelligence and know that only powerful spiritual creatures can bring about their transformation. Therefore, powerful demonic beasts usually capture a spirit-seeking bird and keep it by their side. Every time a demon beast breaches our cultivator's market, it takes the spirit-seeking bird with it to every corner, sweeping away all objects imbued with spiritual energy. We cultivators are like mobile sources of spiritual power, and we cannot escape the spirit-seeking bird's capture." It was for this reason that the cultivator surnamed Liu believed that Chen Mobai was able to escape the calamity after the destruction of Qingguang Island, because none of the demon beasts had raised spirit-seeking birds. Chen Mobai really didn't know this. No wonder he searched Qingguang Island for half a year before finding so few things. It turned out that the group of demonic beasts had already scavenged the entire island. The magical artifacts he found had all slipped through the claws of demonic beasts. "Are the teleportation arrays in the market still usable?" Chen Mobai dared not continue speaking, fearing that he would reveal another flaw, and immediately changed the subject. It's unusable. It's been destroyed by the demon beasts. The array master who will repair the teleportation array won't be available for another year. If you want to return to Nangxi Market, you can only take our Liu family's boat, then transfer to the Luo family spirit camel after landing, or you can walk on your own. The cultivator surnamed Liu shook his head. Unlike the 7 major sects, these cultivation families were not tough. Upon realizing that the demonic beasts were about to attack the island, they immediately gathered spirit stones and used a teleportation array to tactically transfer to the mainland, handing over the island to the mainland without hesitation. After the monsters landed on the island, they could only destroy the buildings. They left no spiritual objects for the monsters. The teleportation array was the only valuable thing, but the monsters didn't understand array formations and dared not use it to reach the cultivators' base camp on land, so they could only destroy it. Chen Mobai was quite lucky. The team that returned from Nangxi Market only arrived this month. If he had come sooner, he would have only seen a desolate, ruined island. Has the wind and rain dock in the center of Yunmeng Marsh fallen? Otherwise, how could the demonic beasts be so rampant? Chen Mobai's words made the cultivator surnamed Liu shake his head and sigh. Due to the current special circumstances, Gideon has locked comments for 99% of the book chapters, meaning only you can see your comments. This will be resolved in a few days. I can see your comments in the backend, and they will all appear after the restrictions are lifted. They haven't been deleted, so please don't misunderstand. End of this chapter. Chapter 149, Third Order Monster. Chapter 149, Third Order Monster. Things are fine at Fengyu Dock, but something has happened outside Fengyu Dock. The cultivator surnamed Liu looked on with a sigh. Originally, the main forces of the 7 major sects were suppressing the nascent soul demon beasts at Fengyu, but unexpectedly, a demon beast that had just broken through to the 3rd rank suddenly appeared on the outskirts of Yunmeng's. After breaking through, the demon beast did not make a fuss, but instead commanded hundreds of thousands of demon beasts on the outskirts of Yunmeng Marsh to besiege the 66 markets of the 7 major sects. After Ancestor Fu of Shenmu sect arrived at Fengyu, the surrounding markets all thought the situation was settled and lowered their guard. At that very moment, the 3rd-tier demon beast that had been hiding for so long made its move. In a day and a night, he broke through the great formations of 12 markets and used his innate supernatural powers to shatter the spiritual veins that the 7 major sects had painstakingly cultivated. Fortunately, the beast's attention was focused on breaking the formation, so the subsequent attack on the island was carried out by the surrounding beast group, while it quickly moved on to the 66 markets on the outskirts of Yunmeng Marsh. However, the 7 major sects reacted quickly, not allowing the 3rd-tier demon beast to wreak havoc so wantonly. After receiving the news, the Golden Core elders immediately went to Wind and Rain Valley via a teleportation array. Then, they worked together to use a magical artifact that could locate powerful demonic beasts and lock onto the aura. In order to finish the battle quickly, Ancestor Fu of the Divine would sect even used a 4th-order wind escape talisman, and together with Ancestor Mo of Golden Light Cliff, they blocked the newly promoted 3rd-order demon beast in a very short time. However, the strength of this demonic beast was unexpectedly powerful. It was a direct descendant of the nascent soul demonic beast that was suppressed by the primordial ancestor. Although the 2 Golden Core ancestors were able to defeat it, they were unable to kill it. The battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, turning the surrounding waters into a dead zone. In the end, old ancestor Mo of Golden Light Cliff used his life essence and blood to use his natal flying sword to severely injure the monster. Then came another month-long pursuit, with even 2 Golden Core elders leaving Fengyu to try and kill this 3rd-tier demon beast with unlimited potential, eliminating it completely. But at this moment, an uproar began inside the sealed town in the center of Yunmeng's. The nascent soul demon beast that had not shown itself for a long time personally took action to bombard the seal left by the primordial ancestor. The four golden core elders were ultimately forced to abandon their pursuit and retreat back to Wind and Rain Dock. After all, once the nascent soul demon beasts are released, the seven major sects will probably have no choice but to abandon the eastern wilderness and flee to distant lands. These cultivators, who had lived for hundreds of years, naturally understood which was more important. After listening to the words of the cultivator surnamed Liu, Chen Mobai finally understood why Qingguang Island had been destroyed. A third-tier demonic beast, with a special innate ability to destroy spiritual veins, is indeed not something that a market guarded by only a few foundation establishment cultivators can withstand. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel fortunate that he wasn't there at that time. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been able to find an 8-second gap in the frenzy of monsters coming to the island to teleport back to the immortal sect. Wait, doesn't that mean that third-tier demonic beast could come back at any time, and this place isn't safe either? Upon further reflection, Chen Mobai's expression changed slightly. He discovered that this island could repeat the same mistakes at any time, and now even the teleportation array was damaged. If it were attacked by monsters, wouldn't they be helpless to die? Don't worry about that. If the seven major sects hadn't already resolved the problem, how would we dare to come back? The cultivator surnamed Liu revealed another piece of information. Last month, the seven major sects announced that they had driven out the third-tier demon beast from Yunmeng Marsh. It is precisely for this reason that these cultivation families dared to send people over to rebuild this trade route. After all, the spiritual items produced in the Yunmeng Marsh of the entire eastern wilderness account for more than 30% of all cultivators' daily needs. If we abandon this place, not only will the cultivation families suffer heavy losses, but even the seven major sects will be severely damaged. Although the seven major sects did not reveal exactly how they drove away the third-tier demon beast, their reputation was still very good in the eyes of the cultivators in the eastern wilderness. Therefore, the cultivators who had fled Yunmeng Marsh began to return gradually. Hearing this, Chen Mobai felt relieved. He hasn't even got to know the eastern wilderness yet. If the demonic beasts of Yunmeng Marsh break out, wouldn't his plan to join the Divine Wood sect be ruined, leaving him no choice but to flee to the other territories of the Heavenly River realm? Upon arriving on the island, Chen Mobai registered his name. A new group of cultivators recently arrived from Nanxi Market. The fleet is currently undergoing repairs, and there will be a return trip in about 3 days. Without hesitation, he paid 3 spirit stones in exchange for a boat ticket. The price has tripled compared to before, but there's nothing we can do. Going back by ourselves without taking a boat would be too time-consuming, and we don't know if we'll encounter any monsters on the waterway. To be on the safe side, we should stick with the group. Chen Mobai strolled around the island. The cultivators built houses very quickly, and the previously destroyed market town was restored to its former appearance. Unfortunately, very few transactions took place, and only a handful of people set up stalls. Chen Mobai went up to inquire and found that the prices of magical artifacts and talismans had plummeted, and the prices of pills had also dropped a bit, but they were still relatively stable. Some healing and cultivation-enhancing pills even saw their prices rise against the trend after this monster frenzy. Because many people have realized that cultivation level is the key. Therefore, many rogue cultivators who escaped death no longer hesitated to use their accumulated spirit stones to purchase large quantities of pills that could enhance their cultivation. Needless to say, there are healing pills. Although some cultivators escaped from the monster attack on the island, they paid a heavy price. Chen Mobai recalled the 16 bottles of pills he had brought out from Qingguang Island. He glanced at the labels and found that most of them were for enhancing cultivation, while the few unlabeled ones were probably produced by those alchemists with no reputation or expertise. Unfortunately, the shops of the major cultivation families on this island have not yet opened, and the rogue cultivators selling pills at their stalls do not have enough spirit stones to buy the 16 bottles in Chen Mobai's hands. We can only make a move slowly after returning to Nanxi Market. After looking around, Chen Mobai rented a room and settled in. 3 days later, he went to the shore with his boat ticket and found a familiar face. "Fellow Taoist he, I never expected to meet you here." He Qin, who was boarding the ship, was also a little surprised to see Chen Mobai. However, his condition was not good. He only had one hand left and his face looked much older than before, covered with wrinkles. "Fellow Taoist Chen." The two were merely acquaintances. They exchanged greetings and then boarded the ship to take their respective seats. Chen Mobai realized that he Qin was alone and remembered that he had mentioned a 7-person team before. He must have suffered heavy losses during the monster attack on the island, and only he had escaped alive. "I just don't know which market they went to." He had been somewhat wary of He Qin before, but now that he thinks about it, it was probably Lu Shu who influenced him with his words, making him suspicious. Ever since he learned that Lu Shu had tampered with the talisman-making tips he had given him, Chen Mobai began to reflect on all his previous conversations with him, and at least stopped trusting him completely. In this heavenly river realm, one should be skeptical of everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 150, Sword Forging Ring. Chapter 150, Sword Forging Ring. That day Chen Mobai was sitting in his seat, eyes closed, meditating and cultivating his spirit. Suddenly, a violent tremor came, causing his body to sway uncontrollably. "What's wrong?" All the monks on the ship stood up and went to the windows. "A group of water snake monsters are attacking us, and we may need your help." 2 cultivators from the Liu family walked in and addressed them solemnly. Afterwards, they walked towards the Qi refining cultivators with higher cultivation levels inside the ship, and soon one of them came to Chen Mobai's side. "Brother Chen, would you be willing to lend a hand? We will refund your fare for this trip." Upon hearing this, Chen Mobai immediately nodded. He understood the principle that all prosper together and all suffer together. If this ship capsizes now, he will have a hard time surviving in this vast Yunmeng marsh, and will probably have no choice but to flee back to the immortal sect. Inside the cabin, 10 of the 12 late-stage Qi refining cultivators followed the Liu family cultivators onto the deck. Chen Mobai glanced at the 2 who hadn't come out. One seemed to be injured, his face pale, while the other was He Qin, who had lost an arm and was severely weakened in combat, practically seriously injured. "Please stand on both sides of the outer perimeter of the cabin. Our icebreaker is a joint product of Liujia Mountain and Hanshin Mountain. It can withstand both magic and physical attacks from monsters. However, the power source requires mid-grade spirit stones to operate. I only have a few left. In order to avoid any unforeseen complications, we still need to find an opportunity to repel or kill these monsters." The leading Liu family cultivator on the ship was named Liu Yangnian, who had a cultivation level of the 9th level of Qi refining. After briefly explaining the situation, he immediately directed Chen Mobai and the other 10 people to their positions. Upon hearing about mid-grade spirit stones, Chen Mobai was also surprised. They usually use low-grade spirit stones for trading in the market. If converted to mid-grade spirit stones, it would take 100 spirit stones to exchange for one. All the spirit stone mines in the eastern wilderness are monopolized by the 7 major sects, and what circulates to the outside world is mostly low-grade spirit stones. After all, mid-grade spirit stones are used by Foundation establishment cultivators for breathing exercises, and even the 7 major sects themselves don't have enough for their own use. The Liu family truly lives up to its reputation as one of the 4 great immortal cultivation families in Yun Kingdom, managing to acquire mid-grade spirit stones. However, it's also possible that they were given away as a bonus when the ship was purchased. Thinking about this, Chen Mobai could understand why the boat tickets were so expensive. After all, the Liu family had invested a lot of money in this boat. Amidst the buzzing sound, Chen Mobai looked up and saw a circle of earth-yellow light shining up, enveloping the entire ship. At the same time, in the pool beside the boat, nearly a dozen dark green water snakes poked their heads out of the water, opened their blood-red mouths, and spewed out streams of water in the direction where they were standing. Accompanied by a fierce howl, waves of water like flashing swords crashed onto the ship like a deluge. but the tan-colored light shield blocked all the attacks. However, after 2 rounds, the light shield began to dim slightly. Liu Yangnian reluctantly took out a mid-grade spirit stone and asked his nephew to replace it. "Gentlemen, it will take 3 more days to reach the shore. If we continue to let these beasts attack, it may attract other monsters. Please join me in a fight." After saying this, Liu Yangnian took the lead and left the icebreaker, riding a flying sword to fight a large black serpent that was clearly the leader. Chen Mobai waited a while, until half of the people had started to leave the protective range of the light shield and fight the water snakes, before he followed them out. He first cast a levitation spell on himself, then a dark yellow flying needle shot out from his sleeve, piercing the eyes and other vital points of the 2 large snakes that were biting at him. Blood suddenly appeared. All the flying needles pierced the water snake's body, but the monster's vitality was so tenacious that it was completely different from that of humans. Or rather, the needle pricks are not fatal enough for them. 2 gaping, blood-red mouths descended before him, and Chen Mobai immediately produced a blue handkerchief. A large cyan shield appeared in front of him, blocking the 2 frost snakes that had become enraged after being injured. It's a good opportunity to test these 3 magical artifacts. Upon seeing that he was blocked by the large blue shield, Chen Mobai went berserk and began to use his body to wrap around the 2 water snakes that were defending him, raising his right hand. He rubbed the brass ring on his middle finger with his thumb, channeling spiritual energy into it, shining with golden light. It was as if a sharp sword had swept across the water, easily severing the 2 water snakes that had just coiled around it. That's right, but it consumes a lot of spiritual energy. Chen Mobai's eyes lit up when he saw the results, but after sensing the spiritual energy within his body, he shook his head slightly. Inside the cabin, he narrowed his eyes slightly as he watched this scene through the window. He had a memory of this brass ring. It seemed to be the sword-forging ring from Jin Guangya. The group outside were mostly experienced warriors who had fought against demonic beasts in the Yunmeng Marsh. They were all in the late stage of qi refining, and 2 of them were even at the 9th level of qi refining. With the icebreaker ship as their backup, they could retreat at any time if they felt they couldn't hold on. Naturally, they won a great victory in this battle. Chen Mobai tested the power of the brass ring and the blue handkerchief again. He didn't take out the white jade bell because it was an area of effect attack and couldn't be controlled. After killing 2 more water snakes, the rest scattered. However, the leading black snake was tightly entangled by Liu Yangnian and could not escape. Chen Mobai and his group naturally wouldn't let this opportunity pass. They all rushed over and used their respective skills, unleashing 10 spells in unison, instantly killing the peak first-tier demon beast. "Thank you all for your help. I will have someone bring you the cost of your boat tickets shortly." After returning to the ship, Liu Yangnian first thanked Chen Mobai and the others, then called to his nephew and began to return the spirit stones. He then summoned the other 3 Liu family cultivators on the ship, and together they happily dismembered the large black snake, skillfully extracting its gall bladder, bones, skin, eyes, and other useful parts. These things could fetch at least 100 spirit stone if sold in Nangxi market. The people who made the move still needed to use the Liu family's icebreaker, and since they also got their ticket money back, they didn't say much. However, Liu Yangnian still knew how to behave, so he divided the snake meat and gave 2 caddies to each of the 10 cultivators, including Chen Mobai, who had made the move. The meat of these first-tier demonic beasts contains abundant spiritual energy. Selling it to shops like Tianqinlu, which specialize in spiritual cuisine, can earn 2 spirit stones for 2 caddies of meat. After receiving these benefits, no one dared to gossip anymore. On the rest of their journey, they encountered another group of demonic beasts, but these were slow-moving black-armored turtles. The Liu family spared no expense, pushing their speed to the maximum to avoid the waters where these demonic beasts were located, thus avoiding a battle. 3 days later, they finally reached the shore. There was also a market town on the shore. Chen Mobai looked at the map and found that the journey back to the water mansion was quite long. Although going to the market and then back to the water mansion was a roundabout route. His cautious nature led him to decide to first follow the Luo family's caravan back to the Yun kingdom. Hequin watched as Chen Mobai went to the Luo family to buy a train ticket, his eyes narrowing slightly. He exchanged glances with the other two independent cultivators who had just disembarked. Then Hequin bought a ticket for the same train as Chen Mobai, while the other two left directly. End of this chapter. Chapter 151, Returning to the Market. Chapter 151, Returning to the Market. 5 days later, looking at the familiar archway of Nangxi Market, Chen Mobai felt as if he had been transported to another world. "Senior, it's been a long time. I didn't expect you to still be alive." Chi, who was acting as a tour guide at the entrance, was visibly excited when he saw Chen Mobai. He. To this, Chen Mobai could only smile slightly. "Nothing major has happened in the market recently, has it?" He didn't let Chi lead the way, but the latter greeted his acquaintances at the door and then followed Chen Mobai into the market. "Our Yun kingdom is within the sphere of influence of the Five Elements sect and the Divine Wood sect. As long as these two sects don't fight, even if an enemy country comes to invade, our Nangxi market will remain as stable as Mount Tai." Chi looked proud, seemingly genuinely considering himself a part of the market. "Fellow Taoist Chen, please wait." Just then, Hequin suddenly ran over and called out to Chen Mobai. "Oh, fellow Taoist, is there something you need?" Chen Mobai turned his head, looking a little puzzled. "That's right. As you know, I had bad luck on this trip to Yunming's. Not only did I lose an arm, but I also exhausted all the spirit stones I had saved up. I'm currently short of funds and urgently need some spirit stones. Didn't you ask me about buying black water before? I still have 2 bottles on me. I wonder if you need any more. I can offer you the cheapest price, 15 spirit stones per bottle." Hequin said earnestly, but Chen Mobai shook his head. "I'm sorry, fellow Taoist, although I would like to buy it, I'm short of money and can't afford even 1 bottle." The real reason was that Chen Mobai felt that the black water that Hequin had someone refine himself was probably not as good as that of the Shenmu sect. Moreover, the bottle of black water he carried was still usable, so there was really no need to invest precious spirit stones in this area. "Oh, I see, then I was being long-winded." Hequin left with a disappointed look on his face. After he left Chen Mobai's sight, he walked into an alley. 2 ordinary-looking, slender rogue cultivators were already waiting there. When they saw him enter, their expressions changed slightly, and they asked him a question. "So are you sure?" "Yes, I took a close look at him when I was pretending to sell black water. The brass ring he was wearing is the sword-forging ring of Golden Light Cliff. If you had it, you could easily break through to the 9th level of chi refining in your Golden Light technique. This sword-forging ring is a symbol of the true disciples of Golden Light Cliff, and it is rarely circulated outside. How did he obtain it?" "We'll find out when the time comes." Of the 2 rogue cultivators, the one who was noticeably older spoke in a cold tone. "I've given you the information. Where's my payment?" Hequin asked. "This time is different from before. We'll give it to you after we've succeeded." "No, I desperately need spirit stones right now. I need them immediately." Upon hearing Hequin's words, the older rogue cultivator raised his head, and the air in the entire alley suddenly turned icy cold. "Old man, all your sworn brothers died in Yunmeng Marsh, and even you only have 1 hand left. You need to readjust your attitude towards us fellow disciples." "You?" Upon hearing these words, Hequin's face flashed with anger, but seeing the narrowed eyes of the 2 people opposite him, and thinking of his current situation, his 2 sworn brothers who had left earlier had not yet returned to the market. He could only swallow his anger, remain silent, and turn to leave. "Senior brother, this isn't quite right. After all, we've been able to settle down in Nangxi Market thanks to the information he provided about easy targets." After Hequin left, the younger rogue cultivator frowned and asked a question. "He has value to me, that's why I'm being polite to him. We'll steal the sword-forging ring, and then leave Yun Kingdom immediately for Feng Kingdom." As long as we cultivate the golden light technique to the 9th level of chi refining and pass through the sword tomb, we can join the golden light cliff. Why should we stay in this small market all day and be Hequin's henchmen? After the senior cultivator finished speaking, the other one suddenly realized what had happened. Indeed, since this is the last transaction, why bother giving Hequin any more face? You keep an eye on things at the market entrance. Once that kid leaves, we'll ambush him on the way. I'll keep an eye on old man he. After they finished dividing up the tasks, the two disappeared into the alley. Chen Mobai was completely unaware of this. He handed over the 2 caddies of snake meat he was carrying to Chi and asked him to help sell it to Tianqinlu. He then took the 16 bottles of pills he had picked up from Qingguang Island and went to the stall. Now that he was familiar with the place, he found the stall owner who had bought his pills before. After some haggling, he sold all the pills at once and got 28 spirit stones, which was a good way to end his 6 months of hard work. After waiting for a while, Chi who had sold all the snake meat, returned with 2 spirit stones as a reward. In addition, there were the used spirit stones he had acquired during this period, as instructed by Chen Mobai. These were extremely precious spiritual essences when they were brought to the immortal sects, and there were a total of 68 of them. Chen Mobai gave him a silver note containing 1,000 taels of gold as payment, and the latter was extremely grateful. By the way, do you know if Lu Shu, who used to set up a stall with me, is still in the market? I haven't seen him for a while, but Miss Zhuo Ming came back from Yunming's last month. She and Lu Shu have a good relationship, so you can ask her, but she hasn't been setting up her stall recently and has been staying in her rented cave. Hearing Chi Er's words, Chen Mobai remembered the woman in yellow who had bought 2 green arrow talismans from him. If he remembered correctly, she was only at the 5th level of chi refining. She was quite lucky to have survived the monster horde attacking the island in Yunming's. However, he had only spoken with Zhu Ming once, and he didn't know if Zhu Ming would be willing to see him if he went to his door rashly. After much deliberation, Chen Mobai decided to make the trip. After all, this matter had been lingering in his mind for a long time, and he felt uncomfortable if he didn't resolve it. He arrived outside Zhu Ming's cave, only to find the door closed. Chen Mobai dared not shout, much less send in a transmission talisman, as that would be too presumptuous. He wanted to leave a note at the door, but he didn't dare write down what he wanted to ask, so he could only shake his head and leave. At the entrance of the market, Chen Mobai found Chi and instructed him to pass on the message that he wanted to talk to Zhu Ming if he encountered her. After finishing everything, he went to the pharmacy in the market that sells pills and herbs from the Shenmu sect, and asked when the recruitment of rogue cultivators would begin this year. The shopkeeper had some impression of him, and upon noticing Chen Mobai's late-stage chi refining cultivation, his attitude became even more gentle. The sect lost many disciples in Yunming's, so we need to replenish our ranks with new blood this year. Therefore, this year's spirit crossing envoys have already set off ahead of schedule. However, it will take at least half a month to get to Yun Kingdom. After all, the Eastern Wilderness is a large territory, and the Yun Kingdom is relatively close. Generally, the task of recruiting disciples by the spirit-crossing envoy of a sect is limited to 1 year. Is that so? It seems that it's best to stay here for the time being. After hearing this, Chen Mobai muttered to himself. End of this chapter. Chapter 152, The Body of One Yang. Chapter 152, The Body of One Yang. Joining the Divine Wood sect is crucial for Chen Mobai's future establishment in the Heavenly River realm. So, to avoid missing out and to be more confident, I decided to stay in Nangxi Market. This was the first time he had rented a cave dwelling in the market. He maintained his frugal habits and rented the cheapest place for 1 spirit stone. After all, he was mainly cultivating the pure Yang Dharma body recently, so his need for spiritual energy wasn't that strong. The pure Yang Dharma body is the foundation for the pure Yang scroll to break through to the next realm. To establish a foundation, one must cultivate the 3 Yang body. However, once cultivated, the chance of establishing a foundation increases by 10%. Although Chen Mobai entered the Pure Yang scroll under the guidance of the Crimson Robe Master, the cultivation of the Pure Yang Dharma body could only be achieved slowly over time. However, compared to others, he possesses spirit stones, which can greatly shorten the time required. During his 6 months at Danju Academy, under the watchful eyes of a golden core cultivator, Chen Mobai, being cautious, only cultivated the pure Yang Dharma body using the most conventional methods of the immortal sects, without ever using spirit stones. This has caused his pure Yang Dharma body to still be hovering outside the threshold of the first Yang arising. Now that I'm back in Nangxi Market, I can imagine a period of peace before the Shenmu sect's spirit pheromone arrives. I can use this time to try cultivating the pure Yang Dharma body with spirit stones. After cleaning the newly rented cave dwelling with a cleaning spell, Chen Mobai sat down on the futon in the middle. He took out a spirit stone and held it in his right palm. Then, he recalled the cultivation method of the pure Yang Dharma body, and after confirming that it was correct, he closed his eyes. A stream of extremely pure spiritual energy surged into the acupoints in the palm, flowing through the meridians along a specific route throughout the body. When it finally flowed into the dantian, only a thin wisp remained, and it disappeared before it even entered the spiritual energy vortex. Chen Mobai was mentally prepared for this. He reviewed the details and steps of cultivating the pure Yang Dharma body using spirit stones, no less than 10 times on the auxiliary cultivation software. Knowing that the spiritual energy disappears throughout the body means that it has been absorbed by the spiritual root hidden within the body, which means that this cultivation has been successful. However, the first practice session did not yield the best results. According to the posts from those experts in the Pure Yang Academy who assist in cultivation, the Pure Yang Dharma body requires reducing excess and supplementing deficiency in order to enhance and purify spiritual roots. Research by the Imperial Medical Academy shows that although the 5-element spiritual roots cannot be specifically observed, the human body is a microcosm. After a large number of experiments, they believe that the 5 internal organs and 6 bowels belong to yin and yang and the 5 elements, and are basically the places where the spiritual roots reside. Among these, the gallbladder and liver contain wood, the heart burns fire, the stomach and spleen nourish earth, the intestines and lungs contain metal, and the kidneys and bladder store water. According to the theory of the pure Yang Dharma body, it is necessary to deplete water to nourish wood and light wood to start a fire. In order to prevent the 5 elements of the human body from being damaged during the process of depletion, thus disrupting the original balance and leading to physical and mental exhaustion, it is necessary to absorb spiritual energy from the outside world to replenish the spiritual roots that are to be depleted. In other words, when a pure Yang Dharma body first begins cultivation, it needs to channel the spiritual energy from the spirit stone into the bladder and kidneys of the body to replenish them, before damaging the water-based spiritual root. Chen Mobai was just starting to cultivate and was a little unfamiliar with it. However, during the second time he circulated his energy, the spiritual energy within the spirit stone was controlled by his divine sense and precisely delivered to his kidneys. After about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he sent most of the remaining spiritual energy to his gallbladder and liver, and only the last bit was sent to his heart and triple burner. Finally, the cultivation technique of the one Yang body was activated, and the water and wood elements were used to ignite the fire. If there were people inside the cave, they would be able to see a mysterious light shining through Chen Mobai's clothes from the area around his kidneys. The mysterious light, like water, rippled across the abdominal muscles, drawing an angle before flowing into the liver and gallbladder. After the mysterious light entered, the liver and gallbladder seemed to be activated and began to glow with emerald green spiritual light, rising up like a sharp sword piercing into the heart and gallbladder area. A faint flame flickered in Chen Mobai's heart, as if it might be extinguished at any moment. But the rising wisps of emerald light, like adding fuel to the fire, kept the flame burning. Dark black light, emerald green light, and bright red flames. The three colors represented the three attributes of the spiritual roots, which lit up in various parts of Chen Mobai's body. According to the cultivation method of the pure Yang Dharma body, they burned and shone, illuminating all parts of his body, causing his originally calm blood and qi to begin to surge. Spiritual energy flowed continuously into the palm, and the three-colored spiritual light flashed constantly. This cycle repeated approximately 9 times. With a click, when Chen Mobai opened his eyes, he saw that the spirit stone he was holding had become dull and lifeless, and even had a crack in the middle. This means that half of the spiritual energy has been consumed, and the spirit stone can no longer lock in the spiritual energy. The remaining spiritual energy needs to be absorbed quickly, otherwise it will dissipate on its own. Although this process is very slow, it is as painful as cutting off a piece of flesh for each independent cultivator. Chen Mobai, being such a frugal person, would naturally not let the spiritual energy in the spirit stone slip away in front of him. He continued to clench his fists, diligently cultivating the Yang body. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and the spirit stones in his hand were completely gone. For the heavenly river realm, this is already considered useless. But for the immortal sects, it is a supreme treasure of spiritual essence for refining the poison of pills. After putting away the waste spirit stones, Chen Mobai took out his spirit testing instrument that he hadn't used in a long time from his school bag. He drew upon a surge of 5 elements spiritual energy from the large vortex of spiritual energy within his danshan and injected it into his body. A moment later, a string of numbers lit up on the small screen of the spirit meter. Spiritual roots: metal 23, wood 27, water 30, fire 17, earth 10. There's absolutely no change. After carefully comparing the two, Chen Mobai felt the surging and vigorous blood and qi in his body. This was the state of entering the one Yang body as described in the pure Yang Dharma body. I tested it again, which was a bit strange. The result was the same. But he immediately realized what was happening. If one could produce noticeable changes in one's spiritual root on the first day of cultivation, then why would Ding Jinglu have spent 20 years cultivating the 3 Yang body? Even someone as talented as Yan Bingxuan felt that it would take her nearly 10 years to complete the purification of her ice spirit root. Keep a calm mind and take it slow. With the help of the spirit stone, according to the experience of our predecessors, there will be changes within a month. Chen Mobai comforted himself in this way and was about to take out another spirit stone to continue cultivating when a transmission talisman suddenly flew in. He didn't dare to delay and immediately took it. Before he went into seclusion, he instructed Qi to inform him immediately if the spirit-crossing envoy of the divine would sect arrived in the Yun kingdom. Chen Mobai thought it was this matter, but after reading it, he found it was something else entirely. Zhuo Ming has emerged from seclusion. When Qi encountered her, he immediately notified her using a sound transmission talisman. Chen Mobai himself had almost forgot that he had instructed Qi on this matter. End of this chapter. Chapter 153, The Ferryman Arrives. Chapter 153, The Ferryman Arrives. Miss Yuo, it's been a long time. At the talisman stall in Nangxi Market, Chen Mobai saw a woman in yellow sitting on a small stool in her usual spot, selling some low to mid-level talismans. He went over and greeted her. "It's you. I never expected to see you again." Upon hearing the voice, Zhuo Ming looked up and saw Chen Mobai. She was slightly taken aback, then nodded and responded. "It's like this, Miss Zhuo. Didn't you say you were a talisman maker? I happen to have some questions about talisman making and would like to ask you for advice." Chen Mobai did not directly ask Lu Shu about the matter, but instead chose a more subtle approach. "Oh, it seems you also intend to join the Divine Wood sect." Upon hearing Chen Mobai's words, Zhuo Ming's eyes showed wariness. At this point in time, almost all the talisman makers still in Nangxi Market were like this. She also wanted to join the Divine Wood sect, so the two of them would naturally become rivals. "It is like this, Brother Lu Shu gave me the Divine Wood sect's talisman making experience. He said that after mastering the basic talismans recorded in it, one would be more than qualified to join the Divine Wood sect. However, I'm not very bright and have tried many times, but I still cannot draw them successfully according to the strokes recorded in the book. I wonder if Miss Zhu could help me solve this problem. Chen Mobai's words neither revealed his suspicion of Lu Shu, nor did they arbitrarily raise his doubts about the errors in the talisman strokes in this book on talisman making. This talent for rhetoric is something he was born with. His maternal grandfather, Tang Ludu, said that if Chen Mobai did not become an official, it would be a great loss to the immortal sect. This one, Zhuo Ming saw the Shenmu sect's talisman-making experience that Chen Mobai had taken out, and her eyes began to dart around as if she knew something, but in the end she shook her head. Go ask Lu Shu yourself. I haven't read this book either, so I can't answer your questions. Oh, so the talismans that Miss Zhu is selling at her stall weren't drawn by herself. Upon hearing this, Chen Mobai pointed with great surprise to the resurrection talisman, regeneration talisman, and new life talisman displayed on Zhu Ming's blanket. These were the basic talismans used by the Divine Wood sect to recruit rogue cultivators. I have something to do today, so I'll close up shop now. Zhu Ming wasn't thick-skinned enough. After Chen Mobai exposed her, she was a little embarrassed and annoyed. She immediately packed up the blanket and talismans, grabbed her small stool and went back to her cave. Chen Mobai did not stop her. At least, judging from Zhu Ming's attitude, she should know that the Shenmu sect's talisman-making experience in Lu Shu's hands is problematic. Take it slow. Once we're in the Divine Wood sect, there will be time for her to speak. Chen Mobai wasn't in a hurry. He had just looked at the talisman Zhu Ming had made. If the Divine Wood sect really lost a lot of disciples in Yunming's this time, someone of her level, as long as her spiritual root talent wasn't too far off, should also be recruited. Once the two become fellow disciples, and time passes, with each other putting themselves in each other's shoes, Zhu Ming will eventually tell him the truth. Chen Mobai was not affected by this incident. Now that he had come out of the cave, he went to the shop selling spiritual herbs at the Divine Wood sect and chatted with the shopkeeper for a long time. However, while he was enjoying his leisurely time, the rogue cultivators keeping watch in the market were getting a little anxious. Didn't you say he would leave soon? It's because the spirit ferryman of the Divine Wood sect left early and is about to arrive in the Cloud Kingdom. He probably wants to join the Divine Wood sect. After receiving the news, he stayed behind. In the same alley, Hequin looked extremely impatient with his fellow disciples who were practicing the golden light technique. What can we do? He won't leave the market and we can't make a move here. What else can you do but wait for him to leave the market? After saying this, Hequin waved his only remaining left hand and turned to leave. You! One of the rogue cultivators, seeing his attitude, flew into a rage and was about to attack when he was pulled back. Senior brother, we can only wait. If there's no chance, then forget it. With a sigh, the two disappeared into the alley. After leaving the alley, Hequin wandered around and entered a cave. Seventh brother, what do these two remnants of the Xuan Guang sect have to say? What else can we say? We dare not make a move in the market. We can only wait for that kid to leave. It's a pity that the kid was too cautious. He didn't leave the Luo family's hound on the way back, so the two of us didn't find an opportunity. Besides Hequin, there were two other people in the cave. If Chen Mobai were here, he would definitely recognize these two as the rogue cultivators who fought alongside him against the demonic beasts on the Liu family's icebreaker. He thought that Hequin's team was down to just him, but little did he know that they had broken up into smaller groups. What will we do if he really joins the Divine Wood sect? One of the middle-aged men, whose face was gloomy, spoke up and asked. After the two brothers who made the move get their hands on the goods, we'll kill them. It's to avenge that kid. Even if the Shenmu sect finds out who we are, they'll still reward us. Another boy who looked the youngest spoke calmly. Wonderful. Chen Mobai was completely unaware of these undercurrents targeting him. After leaving the Shenmu sect's shop, he learned that the spirit ferryman was one of the top 3 masters among the 24 true disciples of the Shenmu sect. It is said that he has already obtained the foundation establishment pill, but he feels that his state of mind is still a little flawed, so he took the initiative to accept this year's spirit crossing mission. While searching for talents for the sect, he also made a final summary of his chi refining career. 3 more days passed, and Chen Mobai noticed that there were more and more unfamiliar faces in Nangxi Market. Chi told him that these were all reclusive cultivators living in seclusion in various parts of Yun Kingdom. After receiving news that the Divine Wood sect's spirit crossing envoy had already set off, they came here to try their luck. Chen Mobai tried to contact a few people, but found that some of them couldn't even draw a resurrection talisman. Those who possess Zhuo Ming's level of talisman-making skills are among the best. I only found out after asking that this is how rogue cultivators are. They are busy earning spirit stones, cultivating and fighting. They have no time to delve into advanced cultivation arts like talisman making. While marveling once again at the harsh cultivation environment of the heavenly river realm, Chen Mobai also understood why these rogue cultivators were so eager to join major sects. Cultivation techniques, elixirs, and all the arts of immortality. These things are incomplete among independent cultivators. Only sects and aristocratic families have complete inheritances. As for those who wish to advance beyond foundation establishment and inherit the 3 levels of cultivation arts, only the 7 major sects in the entire eastern wilderness possess this knowledge. While marveling at the preciousness of knowledge in the heavenly river realm, Chen Mobai was also grateful that knowledge could be freely acquired within the immortal sect, and what he lacked was resources. 2 more days have passed. The spirit envoy from the Shenmu sect finally arrived at Nangxi Market amidst much anticipation. End of this chapter. Chapter 154, True Spirit Root. Chapter 154, True Spirit Root. At the entrance of Nangxi Market, the stewards of the 4 major cultivation families were all bowing and scraping to 2 disciples dressed in the blue uniforms of the Shenmu sect. Chen Mobai squeezed into the crowd, carefully observing the 2 people who were the center of attention. Strange, how come there are 2 true disciples? According to what I had heard beforehand, the one who came should be Yi Yun, the 3rd true disciple. It is said that he was unremarkable in appearance and unpretentious, but he devoted himself to the study of the scripture of immortality, and was hailed as one of the most likely geniuses to achieve foundation establishment among the true disciples of this generation. The 2 people from the Shenmu sect were a man and a woman. The man was elegant and handsome. The girl had red lips and white teeth, and her eyebrows and eyes were exquisite. Although she looked to be only 13 or 14 years old, one could already see her future stunning beauty. The faint sounds revealed to Chen Mobai that the man's surname was Yuan, and the woman's surname was Ding. If the surname is Yuan, could it be Yuan Chai, who is ranked 18th among the 24 true disciples of this generation? As for Ding, there are 2 true disciples in this generation, and the female one should be Ding Ying. Having decided to join the Divine Wood sect, Chen Mobai naturally inquired about a great deal of information about the sect. The Shenmu sect outwardly displays 2 golden core ancestors above and 24 true disciples below. As for how many foundation establishment elders there are in the sect, opinions vary and there is no definite number. The cultivators in the heavenly river realm are already giving their all every day just to acquire spirit stones and cultivation techniques, so they don't have any spare time to collect and research these things. On the contrary, Chen Mobai, based on the information revealed by the owner of the spirit medicine shop of the Shenmu sect in the market, roughly deduced a number. According to him, in each generation of 24 true disciples, about 2 to 4 people are able to successfully establish the foundation. In other words, there are an average of 3 more foundation establishment stages every 10 years. 50 years have passed since the Shenmu sect split off, and there are at least 15 foundation establishment cultivators to guarantee it. It's just unknown how many foundation establishment cultivators were brought out from the 5 Elements sect, and how much has been lost over the years. Among the true disciples of this generation, The three most promising to reach the foundation establishment stage are Yun. Because he was not distracted by cultivating the two phases technique, his spiritual power was the purest, so most people believed that he would become the first true disciple to successfully establish his foundation in this generation. However, this is not absolute. There were also a few resilient individuals who ranked low during the initial stages of the transmission, but ultimately achieved remarkable success and successfully established their foundation. Before long, the four major cultivation families, along with two disciples of the Divine Wood sect, arrived at the Heavenly Meal Pavilion in the very center of the market. Chen Mobai waited in the same spot for a while. About an incense stick's time later, ran over. "Senior, I've found out that, as the third true disciple, Yun has many disciples in the Shenmu sect who believe he can successfully establish his foundation and have chosen to attach themselves to him. This time he accepted the mission of the sect's spirit ferryman, but it was mainly for his own foundation establishment. So he asked two disciples in the sect who were attached to him to help him complete the task of recruiting rogue cultivators. That male disciple of the Shenmu sect is Yuan Chai, the 18th true disciple, and that young-looking girl is named Ding Ying, who also seems to be a true disciple." After listening, Chen Mobai nodded. As long as the Shenmu sect continues to recruit independent cultivators, it doesn't matter who comes. It wasn't that he was bragging, but although there were quite a few experts at the 8th or 9th level of qi refining in the market, when it came to talisman making, after half a year of hard training at Danju Academy, he was definitely better than these rogue cultivators. During those 6 months, besides switching to studying the pure Yang scripture, he also sought guidance from Luan Jingsheng. With Luan Jingsheng's help, he diligently studied the 3 basic volumes of talisman books. Not only the 5 life-giving talismans, but also the Crimson Fire talisman and Sword Qi talisman that Qi Rui gave him, can now be made. If it weren't for the fact that drawing the Crimson Flame Sword talisman required the special talisman ink from Giant Wood Ridge, Chen Mobai would probably have already completed this first-grade high-quality talisman. As it turned out, his idea was entirely correct. After the 2 true disciples of the Shenmu sect had a hearty meal at the banquet hosted by the 4 major families, they had the Shenmu sect's shops begin to be cleaned up, and the venue for drawing talismans prepared in the afternoon. The 2 of them arrived at an open space in the middle of the Nangxi Fang Market Street. Yuan Chie patted his storage bag, and a streak of light flashed past. Suddenly, a circular platform large enough for 2 or 3 people to stand on appeared in the center of the open space. "Is this the spirit testing platform?" Qi standing next to Chen Mobai, looked over with hopeful eyes. Without even asking, Chen Mobai already knew what it was just from the name. It should be the magical artifact used by the Heavenly River realm to measure the spiritual roots of cultivators. It's so big, it should be more accurate and faster than the spirit-detecting device in his hand. Just as Chen Mobai was thinking this, the 2 people from the Shenmu sect stood aside, and immediately, Shenmu sect disciples from the market brought over 2 chairs and placed them behind them. "Our Shenmu sect has opened its gates wide to recruit rogue cultivators. As long as one's spiritual roots are suitable and one has not committed any evil deeds, one may join our sect." Yuan Che's words were like a thunderclap, making them clearly audible to everyone on the street. "Now, men and women of suitable age from the 4 major families, please come up to the spirit testing platform." As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 cues that had been prepared beforehand stepped forward. With mixed feelings of trepidation and anticipation, one by one they stepped onto the spirit testing platform. The first person to go on stage was a boy from the Liu family. It seemed that someone had given him some pointers. As soon as he went up, he sat cross-legged on the spirit testing platform and began to meditate, breathing in spiritual energy. About 2 or 3 minutes later, just as Chen Mobai was about to yawn, the spirit testing platform lit up with 4-colored light. Pseudo-spiritual roots of the 4 elements: metal, wood, water, and fire. Seeing this, Yuan Cha shook his head slightly, but still gave the Liu family face, beckoning the boy from the spirit testing platform over and reaching out to touch his bone age. 16 years old, Qi refining level 3, barely qualified to join my sect. Upon hearing this, the leader of the Liu family smiled with relief. Chen Mobai was a little confused. Wasn't there a talisman assessment later? It seemed like he had already been recommended to the Divine Wood sect. What surprised him even more was the simplicity of the spirit testing platform. Can't you even read the numerical value of the spiritual root attribute? Chen Mobai thought he might have misunderstood, so he continued reading. The second, third, and fourth people went up, and the spirit testing platform still only lit up with the light of the 5 elements spiritual roots, showing the spiritual root attributes of the people who went up, but it could not display the specific values. He finally understood that the spirit testing device in his backpack might be a bit too powerful for the heavenly river realm. After testing the members of the 4 major families, the one with the best spiritual root was a member of the Liu family with 3 spiritual roots. In this round, Yuan Che recruited a total of 13 disciples. He seemed very satisfied with the only one with 3 true spiritual roots, not only letting him stand by his side, but also speaking kindly to the Liu family steward, saying that if the Divine Wood sect had extra foundation establishment pills next time, they would consider inviting the Liu family to bid. Next up is the spiritual root test for the independent cultivators. End of this chapter. Chapter 155, Top-Tier Talent. Chapter 155, Top-Tier Talent. Chen Mobai looked around and noticed that everyone looked hesitant. He found it very strange, but after putting himself in the shoes of these rogue cultivators and thinking about it, he suddenly realized what they were thinking. The moment these people embarked on the path of cultivation, they understood the importance of spiritual roots. Since they can become cultivators, it means that they all possess spiritual roots. However, these spiritual roots could very well lead to either ascension to immortality or damnation. They wanted to know their spiritual roots through the spirit testing platform, but they were also afraid of discovering that they had pseudo-spiritual roots with 4 or 5 attributes, which would jeopardize their future on the path of cultivation. With this feeling of uncertainty and anxiety, an awkward silence fell over the room. Chen Mobai knew his own spiritual root talent. If he were in the immortal sect, he would definitely have gone up on stage with the mindset of being the first to finish the exam. But this is the heavenly river realm, and we must not attract attention. He held back, waiting for the first rogue cultivator to emerge, hoping to attract the attention of the 2 true disciples of the Divine Wood sect. As expected, after about an incense stick's time, Yuan Che noticed that no one had come up on stage yet, and he couldn't help but frown. If no one is present, the spirit test will end here. Those who are not tested will not be able to participate in the next round of talisman assessment. After he said that, someone finally couldn't hold back anymore. A burly, bald man with no eyebrows stepped forward, bowed to Yuan Che, and then cautiously walked onto the spirit testing platform. He meditated and inhaled spiritual energy, just like the others had done before. Then 5 colored light shone. 5 elements pseudo-spiritual root, not acceptable. Master Yuan, I am at the 8th level of Qi refining. It's impossible for my spiritual root to be so bad. Would you like to examine my bones again? The bald, burly man turned pale upon seeing the radiance of his own spiritual root, but he still ran to Yuan Che's side without giving up and stretched out his right hand. Qi refining level 8, all right then, participate in the next round of talisman assessment. Yuan Che did not examine the bones. He nodded and dismissed the bald man, then gestured for the next person to come up. Many independent cultivators who witnessed this scene believed the rumors that had been circulating in the market recently. The Shenmu sect lost many disciples in Yunmeng's, so it seems they will really recruit more people this year. Originally, someone with a pseudo-spiritual root of the 5 elements would definitely be eliminated, but being at the 8th level of Qi refining and able to complete many sect missions, they were given a second chance. So the remaining late-stage Qi refining cultivators all eagerly went up to the spirit testing platform. But the result was very unexpected for Chen Mobai. They were all pseudo-spiritual roots with 4 or 5 attributes. That's strange what's going on. Senior, these people have been able to cultivate to the late stage of chi refining because they have gone through the recruitment of disciples by the 5-element sect and the divine wood sect several times. Their spiritual root talents have long been measured. Those geniuses with true spiritual roots have already been selected in the previous sessions. Chi Er's words made Chen Mobai suddenly realize the truth. His previous thoughts were all wrong. It turned out that these people were not afraid to go on stage because they were worried about finding out that their spiritual talent was not good. Rather, they already knew they were pseudo-spiritual roots with 4 or 5 attributes, and that they were all over the age limit, which did not meet the requirements for recruiting disciples by the 5-element sect and the divine wood sect. They knew they would be eliminated, so they did not go up. However, thanks to the monster frenzy in Yunmeng's, the Shenmu sect may have suffered significant losses, so they are being lenient with these rogue cultivators in the late chi refining stage. I wonder what the talisman assessment will be like later on. Just as Chen Mobai was pondering this question, the tests on the late-stage chi refining cultivators were almost complete, and as expected, they were all pseudo-spiritual roots, causing Yuan Che to shake his head repeatedly. Finally, he didn't even bother to look anymore and started chatting with the disciples who were managing the Shenmu sect shops. If the sect leader hadn't asked us to recruit more people this time, none of these people would have been able to join the sect. Actually, it's good. After all, these rogue cultivators have all developed a skill to the late stage of chi refining. Foundation establishment is impossible for them, but they can make good use of the sect's forces in Yunmeng Marsh. One of the shopkeepers of the Buddhist artifacts shop said with a smile. There's still some hidden gems. Suddenly, the young-looking female disciple of the Shenmu sect spoke up in surprise. Yuan Che, who was chatting casually, immediately turned his head and saw a handsome young man sitting on the spirit testing platform, breathing deeply. White light, blue light, black light appeared. It's actually a true spiritual root with 3 attributes. Yuan Che's eyes lit up and he stood up. What is the background of this rogue cultivator? The shopkeeper who managed the Shenmu sect's medicine shop immediately stepped forward and reported to Yuan Che. This is a rogue cultivator who only appeared in the Yun Kingdom last year. He also went to the Qingguang Island market of my sect in Yunmeng Marsh some time ago. He was very lucky and escaped after the monsters destroyed the island. Oh, so they escaped from the ruins of Qingguang Island. Upon hearing this, Yuan Che couldn't help but marvel. As a true disciple, he naturally knew the ferocity of the Qingguang Island battlefield. The Shenmu sect and Jingguang Cliff lost 2 foundation establishment elders in order to buy time for most disciples to retreat through the teleportation array. To be able to escape alive from such a battlefield, this person must have extraordinary abilities. Can we investigate the origins of this person's journey into cultivation? Although the Shenmu sect is not as strict with independent cultivators as the 5-element sect, it still conducts basic population surveys to prevent other sects from sending people to steal the Shenmu sect's cultivation techniques and secret manuals. I have heard him mention it. It is said that when he was a child, he fell into a big lake while fishing and accidentally entered a water palace, where he obtained the method of cultivating immortality. The foreshadowing from Chen Mobai's conversation with the owner of the Shenmu sect's herbal medicine shop has come to light. He was planning to join the Shenmu sect and then whitewash the water mansion as his own. Since this water mansion previously belonged to the 5-element sect and no one has come to reclaim it yet, the divine wood sect, which branched off from the 5-element sect, is also qualified to claim ownership of this water mansion. Once he joins the divine wood sect, wouldn't the water palace rightfully belong to him? Anyway, the spiritual lands at the giant wood ridge of the divine wood sect are so numerous that they are almost deserted, so even if they knew about this small water mansion, they definitely wouldn't care. Okay, I understand. Just then, Chen Mobai came down from the spirit testing platform and walked towards Yuan Che. After the spirit test, there is also a bone reading to check the cultivation level. Not bad, only 19 years old, yet already at the 7th level of qi refining, and with a true spiritual root. After examining the bones, Yuan Che was even more satisfied. With your current cultivation progress, the attributes of this true spiritual root must be quite good. It might even be a top-tier talent approaching the level of a 2 spiritual root. You don't need to participate in the upcoming talisman assessment. Yuan Che immediately determined Chen Mobai's eligibility to join the sect. Chen Mobai was quite surprised by this, as he knew that it was just a very ordinary 3-elemental root, and it was only a few points away from being classified as a 4-elemental root. How come the result in Yuan Che's mouth is completely different from the spiritual root certification issued by the big hospital in the immortal sect? End of this chapter. Chapter 156. Oh no, I've become a genius. Chapter 156. Oh no, I've become a genius. Chen Mobai was unaware of the true value of his 3-attribute true spiritual root. But after all the cultivators in Nangxi Market had walked across the spirit testing platform, they finally found out. This is actually the best result. In the entire Nangxi Fangxi, there is not a single person with more than 3 spiritual roots. Even among those with 3 spiritual roots, there are only a handful of 6 people. Besides him and the young man from the Liu family, the remaining 3 rogue cultivators who were detected had a bone age of over 30 years old, but were only at the 3rd level of qi refining. Yuan Che considered them to be 3 spiritual roots that were close to pseudo-spiritual roots. Originally, someone with 3 spiritual roots should have been allowed to directly enter the sect, but after Yuan Che's assessment, this rogue cultivator was made to participate in the 2nd round of talisman assessment. Only if he passed the assessment would he be allowed to enter the sect. Although the rogue cultivator was somewhat resentful, he had no choice but to obey the decision of the true disciple of the Divine Wood sect. Of the remaining 2, one was a 6-year-old boy, the son of a couple of rogue cultivators, who was only at the 1st level of qi refining. However, Yuan Che judged that his spiritual root should be good, so he made a reservation directly. He gave the boy a token from the Divine Wood sect. When the next spirit ferryman arrives 10 years from now, the boy can take out the token, verify his identity, and then directly enter the sect. Chen Mobai found it strange that he didn't just take the child into the Shenmu sect. Wasn't he afraid that the child would be snatched away by another sect in the next generation? He didn't want to ask Yuan Che directly, so he asked an old acquaintance, the manager of the Shenmu spirit medicine shop. In this young kingdom, only the 5-element sect dares to compete with our Divine Wood sect for people, but the relationship between our 2 sects has eased in the last 20 years. They would never do such a despicable thing for a disciple with 3 spiritual roots. Besides, even if it's taken away, it just means that this child has no destiny with my sect. It's just a mere 3 spiritual roots. Once it's gone, it's gone. These words revealed the grandeur of the Divine Wood sect, a major sect in the eastern wilderness, making Chen Mobai realize that he hadn't chosen the wrong sect. However, I never expected that we would be able to find 3 outstanding talents in our Nangxi market this year. Junior brother Chen, if you succeed in establishing your foundation in the sect in the future, don't forget that you still have an old friend like me here. The manager of the Shenmu sect's herbal medicine shop is named Yu Tian. He was recruited into the sect as a rogue cultivator, but he is only at the 8th level of qi refining, so he has virtually no hope of applying for the foundation establishment pill. But he had accumulated his sect's contributions throughout his life, all for the sake of a single attempt to reach the foundation establishment stage, even without the foundation establishment pill. Therefore, Yu Tian has been looking for an opportunity to return to Giant Tree Ridge, because the spiritual veins there are abundant, making it undoubtedly the best place if one wants to establish a foundation independently. However, he was troubled by the lack of connections within the sect, and his application for a transfer back had been delayed. Seeing that Chen Mobai possessed the most outstanding 3 spiritual roots, he was certain to shine brightly within the sect in the future, and might even become the next generation's true disciple. A glimmer of hope ignited in his heart, and he immediately came over to try and get closer to him. Not at all, I've only just begun. I'm not even a true disciple yet, let alone a foundation establishment cultivator. Senior brother, you're being too kind. Chen Mobai had always wanted to keep a low profile in the Tian realm. He originally thought that with his talent, which was close to that of a pseudo-spiritual root, he could make a small effort during the talisman assessment and get a mid-level score to enter the Divine Wood sect. This way, he could not attract attention and could also join this major sect in the eastern wilderness for exchange and learning, killing two birds with one stone. Who would have thought that the magical artifact used to test spiritual roots in the heavenly river realm was so rudimentary, and coupled with his age and cultivation level, Yuan Che immediately mistook him for a genius with a true spiritual root. This caused his initial attempt to keep a low profile to go awry. Senior brother Chen, I was wrong before. I hope you will take good care of me in the sect in the future. Just then, the last rogue cultivator with 3 spiritual roots in Nangxi Market also came over. It was Zhuo Ming. Her beautiful face showed a hint of trepidation, and her eyes held both excitement and fear. What's exciting is that she actually has 3 spiritual roots and is only 24 years old. Moreover, his cultivation level was at the 5th level of qi refining, meeting the standard for admission without examination. After Ding Ying examined her bones and found the results of her spiritual root test, Yuan Che waved his hand and exempted her from tomorrow's talisman assessment, directly adding her to the sect's roster. Although Zhuo Ming was filled with excitement for a moment, she immediately saw Chen Mobai chatting and laughing with Yu Tian. She remembered that she had rejected him before and felt as if she had been doused with cold water. Having spent so many years among independent cultivators, she naturally understands the ways of the world. Chen Mobai is clearly the most talented among those who participated in the spiritual root testing ceremony in Nangxi Market, and has already caught the eye of 2 true disciples of the Divine Wood sect. Moreover, he is already at the late stage of qi refining. Once he joins the sect and receives resources from the Divine Wood sect for cultivation, he might become one of the next 24 true disciples. Given his age and talent, it is possible for him to obtain the Foundation Establishment Pill in the future. If one can obtain the Foundation Establishment Pill, then there is a possibility of establishing one's foundation. Foundation establishment is the ultimate goal for all independent cultivators. Therefore, Zhuo Ming was very uneasy, even though he had already joined the Shenmu sect. She knew very well that with Chen Mobai's talent, there was a high chance he would become a true disciple. As for her, she would most likely end up like Yu Tian, spending her entire life managing shops in the market for the sect. Before even entering the Divine Wood sect, he had already offended a future true disciple. Just thinking about it made Zhuo Ming feel that his future was already bleak. No, Aunt Zhuo, senior sister, junior sister, there's nothing between us. We both come from Nangxi in Yun Kingdom, and when we enter the sect in the future, we will definitely help each other. Chen Mobai had initially thought Zhuo Ming was younger than him, but when Ding Ying examined her bones earlier, she said she was 24. Based on age, he should call her senior sister. However, in the Heavenly River realm, cultivation level is paramount, so Zhuo Ming can only be his older junior sister. He hesitated for a while before finally getting the correct way to address someone. However, his mature words caused some of the people listening nearby to misunderstand. Just as Chen Mobai was thinking about inviting Zhuo Ming to dinner later and asking about Lu Shu, another person came over. It was Liu Wenbai, the young man from the Liu family. Under the guidance of his elders, he also respectfully bowed to Chen Mobai and called him senior brother. It seemed that Zhuo Ming had taken the lead, and the boy named Shen Wei, who had 3 spiritual roots, was also brought over by his parents to get acquainted with them. Even some rogue cultivators who clearly failed the talisman test, shamelessly, came to pay their respects to Chen Mobai's mountain. Thus, Chen Mobai, who hadn't even been to Giant Tree Ridge, suddenly became the leader of this generation of Divine Tree sect disciples in Nangxi, Yun Kingdom. The plan to keep a low profile was aborted in the first place. Chen Mobai even saw Yuan Chia and Ding Ying, the two true disciples of the Divine Wood sect, looking over with thoughtful expressions, and couldn't help but secretly cry out in his heart that things were going badly. They thought they were unhappy with him for starting to form cliques so early in his career. Oh no, how did I become a genius? End of this chapter. Chapter 157, Hidden Story. Chapter 157, Hidden Story. What do you think? He's all right, quite similar to senior brother Joe. Among the next generation of true disciples, he'll be another interesting junior brother. Yuan Chia asked the girl beside him, and received an answer that surprised him. Senior brother Joe, he's the next sect leader of my Shenmu sect. You think so highly of this Chen Gixian. The next sect leader, that will have to wait until senior brother Joe reaches the foundation establishment stage. He. Yuan Che dared not continue the conversation, and could only smile and brush it off. The next day, the venue for the talisman assessment had been set up, and all the independent cultivators who had passed the first round of spirit testing filed in. Under the guidance of the people from the 4 major families who came to maintain order, they sat down in an orderly manner. Chen Mobai has already entered the sect. He is just waiting for the completion of the spirit crossing mission throughout the Yun Kingdom. Then, Foundation establishment cultivators stationed in the Yun Kingdom will come and take them away to the Divine Wood sect. He had no time or inclination to look at these people's gloomy faces. Fortunately, Zhu Ming didn't need to participate in the talisman assessment. So the two of them found a place and started talking about Lu Shu. He also gave me this book, The Divine Wood Sect's Talisman Making Experience, but I had already obtained the books on making resurrection talismans, regeneration talismans, and new life talismans before. When I took it back and compared it, I discovered the trickery in it. As soon as Zhu Ming spoke, he confirmed that the talisman-making manual that Lu Shu had given to Chen Mobai had indeed been tampered with. Did junior sister Zhu confront him about this matter? How could I dare? At that time, I was only at the 4th level of qi refining, while he was already at the late stage of qi refining. I could only pretend not to know and thank him for the book every time we met. Could it be that he was also deceived, and didn't actually know that there was something wrong with this talisman-making manual? HMPH, I used to think so too, but then one day I saw him take out an identical copy and give it to another rogue cultivator who was setting up a stall. Do you think I would buy 2 such erroneous books if I were being cheated? I thought he was a helpful rogue cultivator, but who knew he was so insidious? Hearing Zhu Ming say this, Chen Mobai nodded. If that's really the case, then Lu Shu is using this method to disrupt the ecosystem of the Divine Wood sect's recruitment of independent cultivators. He knew how precious the knowledge of the Heavenly River realm was. Giving away erroneous talisman-making techniques for free would undoubtedly destroy the future of the Divine Wood sect in the shortest amount of time. According to junior sister Zhu, do you know why Lu Shu did this? I think he might be a member of the 5 Elements sect. Although Zhu Ming's tone was hesitant, her expression was resolute. Chen Mobai thought about it and felt that it made a lot of sense. Indeed, the 5 Elements sect is the most likely, the most suspicious, and the least afraid of being retaliated against by the Divine Wood sect after being discovered. Junior sister, do you think we should report this matter to our 2 true disciples? Chen Mobai asked another question, and Zhu Ming hesitated for a moment before immediately shaking her head. It's better to pretend you don't know. If you want to live a long life in the cultivation world, you have to be a little ignorant. That's why she didn't tell Chen Mobai about it at first. Who knows what Lu Shu's background is? She didn't want her malice towards him to lead to future retaliation if he found out. If you're going to tell the 2 true disciples, just say you discovered it yourself, and don't involve me. Zhu Ming's words made Chen Mobai chuckle. The atmosphere in the Tianhe realm was indeed quite conservative. However, he couldn't say anything to Zhu Ming, since he himself acted the same way here. However, now that he is in the spotlight and is hailed as the leader of this generation of Shenmu disciples in Nangxi, Yun Kingdom, he can no longer keep a low profile. Perhaps in the future, will need to be a bit more high profile. That just so happens, he also wants to become a true disciple and strive for the Foundation establishment pill. Since you have such good intentions, junior sister, I will naturally not expose you. After the talisman assessment ended that day, Chen Mobai handed the Book of Talisman Insights from the Divine Wood sect to Yuan Qi. The latter looked at it with a puzzled expression and then frowned. Being able to become a true disciple and be entrusted with an important task, such as coming to Yun Kingdom to guide the spirits, his vision and knowledge are naturally of the highest caliber. Without Chen Mobai pointing it out, he already knew the sinister plot hidden behind this erroneous book. No wonder the talisman-making skills of this year's rogue cultivators are a whole level below the previous year. If the sect leader hadn't relaxed the requirements, I probably would have eliminated 80% of the rogue cultivators. Yuan Che shook his head, his eyes turning serious as he asked Chen Mobai, "Besides you, who else knows about this?" "I don't know about that because Lu Shu gave me this book directly. Perhaps there are other people in the market who were also given it by him. You'll have to ask other independent cultivators for details." Chen Mobai's words were flawless, and Yuan Che did not notice the ambiguity. After nodding, the latter put the book, Shenmu Sect's Talisman-Making Experience, into his pocket. "The spirit crossing ceremony here in Nangxi Market has just ended. I need to go to Uncle Shan's residence to report on this matter. Until the order from above comes down, just pretend this never happened. Even if you encounter the person who gave you the book, pretend you don't know anything and greet them with a smile." "Yes, senior brother Yuan." The two disciples, who had originally planned to rest for one night, did not delay any longer and left Nangxi Market that very night, heading north. "Since I have some time, I'll go back to the Water Mansion for a visit." Chen Mobai had already mastered the method for lifting the restrictions of the Ren Shui Thunder technique, which was recorded in Liu Lingpei's notes. If it weren't for the fact that joining the Divine Wood sect was too important, he would have returned long ago. Now we need to wait another half a month or so, until Yuan Qie and the other two complete the spirit transfer to the other 3 directions of Yun Kingdom, before we can go to Giant Wood Ridge. He can finally accomplish this long-cherished wish. This is a problem that has been troubling him ever since he first arrived in the Heavenly River realm. What exactly is inside those 2 side halls? Having cultivated the pure Yang Dharma body all night, Chen Mobai, full of energy and vitality, strolled out of Nangxi Market. The day has finally come. The rogue cultivator who had been keeping watch at the entrance of the market saw Chen Mobai's departing figure, narrowed his eyes, and then activated a sound transmission talisman. A short while later, another rogue cultivator arrived. "Senior brother, he's gone." "Junior brother, are we really going to make a move? He's a disciple of the Divine Wood sect now. If we kill him, even if we've joined the Golden Light Cliff sect, we'll probably be killed if our identities are exposed." "Senior brother, at worst we'll just take the sword-forging ring and not kill him. He's also a rogue cultivator. He'll definitely be a pragmatic person." Ultimately, the allure of the sword-forging ring was too great, or perhaps the two of them had become accustomed to the rapid increase in wealth brought by plunder and could not resist. With a determined heart and gritted teeth, they chased after Chen Mobai in the direction he had left. Shortly after they left, He Quen and his 2 sworn brothers also appeared. They smiled sinisterly. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. They all belong to them. End of this chapter. Chapter 158, Reaching a Consensus. Chapter 158, Reaching a Consensus. Chen Mobai left Nangxi Market and arrived at a desolate mountain. Just as I was about to take a break, 2 sword lights suddenly attacked from behind, bright and dazzling. "Who goes there?" Chen Mobai was no longer a novice in combat. 2 wooden shield talismans flew out from his sleeve, instantly transforming into 2 cyan light shields that blocked the sword light. With a loud bang, to his surprise, the 2 sword beams pierced through the 2 wooden shield talismans without any resistance. They are 2 experts. Upon seeing this, Chen Mobai's expression changed, and he dared not be negligent any longer. The water element shield moved at will, transforming into two vortexes that appeared above the path of the sword light, enveloping it and dissipating its sharp spiritual power. But at this very moment, the sound of a sword echoed. The sword light split into two. While the water shield blocked two of them, the other two curved and pierced towards Chen Mobai's shoulder blades. Did you not aim for my vital points because you didn't want to take my life, or were you hesitant? In that instant, the thought flashed through Chen Mobai's mind. He activated the wooden armor talisman, and the golden light talisman held in his palm. With a flick of his other sleeve, a blue handkerchief flew out. With 3 layers of defense deployed simultaneously, they finally managed to block the 2 sword lights that flew right in front of them. Amidst the banging sounds, Chen Mobai involuntarily took 2 steps back. The spiritual power contained in these 2 sword lights was so strong that even his 3 defenses could not be completely neutralized. The opponents they faced in the entrance exams for the immortal sects were not even in the same league. Chen Mobai compared the 2 most powerful people he had ever encountered, Gong Xiangyu and Yan Feng. He realized that even if these 2 people were to attack him together, they wouldn't pose as much of a threat as the 2 sword lights from before. This does not mean that these 2 sword lights are more powerful than the heavenly sea sword Qi unleashed by the heavenly heart sword talisman. Rather, it means that the people who made the move far surpassed these students from the immortal sect who grew up in a greenhouse in terms of combat experience, insight, timing of their move, and mastery of swordsmanship. Chen Mobai had a calm and confident attitude towards his opponents from the immortal sect, but he found it extremely difficult to block these 2 sword lights, and he had to be extremely focused. Who dares to attack a disciple of the Divine Wood sect? After much deliberation, Chen Mobai realized that if his opponent had any reservations about him, then this newly acquired identity was the only option. HMPH, in this desolate wilderness, if I kill you, who will know? 2 slender, 1 tall and 1 short rogue cultivators wearing bamboo hats and black cloth covering their faces, revealing only their eyes, appeared before Chen Mobai, each wielding a long sword. Luckily, they were just 2 poor guys. Chen Mobai breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that they were not using flying swords, but holding long swords. If a flying sword were to attack him, his defensive talismans and magical artifacts wouldn't be able to withstand more than a few blows. Seniors, I am merely a rogue cultivator with 20 spirit stones on me. If you require payment for my journey, please accept it, but please spare my life. Even without flying swords, the skill level of those 2 sword lights just now shows that these 2 rogue cultivators are at least in the late stage of Qi refining. Moreover, he is a sword cultivator known for his powerful combat abilities among cultivators. Chen Mobai felt that he was no match for him, so his first thought was whether he could reach a consensus through words. He untied a cloth bag from his waist, opened it, and threw it onto the grass in front of the 2 men. Amidst the clinking and tinkling sounds, spirit stones rolled out from the untied bag, their shimmering light instantly attracting the attention of the 2 rogue cultivators. However, they quickly came to their senses, raised their longswords, and aimed them at Chen Mobai's right hand. Seniors, what does this mean? Do you want me to use one hand? Chen Mobai couldn't accept it. If that were the case, he would have no choice but to fight desperately. No, we want the sword-forging ring you're wearing. The taller rogue cultivator spoke up, pointing with his longsword at the brass ring Chen Mobai was wearing. A sword-forging ring. Chen Mobai raised his hand and looked at the brass ring on his finger. So this magical artifact had this name. Is it a famous Buddhist artifact? Seniors, I can give you the item, but please give me a guarantee that after you take it, you will never lay a hand on me or harm a single hair on my head. Although Chen Mobai was very reluctant to part with the brass ring he had only used once, he felt that compared to his own safety, it was something he could give up. Okay, we can agree to that, but you have to agree to one thing for us. Please speak. We'll take the sword-forging ring and leave. You can't investigate our identities and origins because of this. Even if you do find out, the 3 of us can't hurt each other. This was something the 2 brothers had discussed long ago. The best way is to kill the robber. However, the two brothers were also ambitious people. Having obtained the sword-forging ring, they were very likely to join the Golden Light Cliff. At Jinguang Cliff, there is a trial called Sword Tomb, Test of the Heart. If one has done anything harmful to Jinguang Cliff, they will not be able to pass the trial. The relationship between Jinguang Cliff and Shenmu sect is known throughout the entire eastern wilderness. They were definitely in the wrong for killing and robbing, and if exposed, Jin Guangya would surely kill them to clean house for the sake of their own reputation. Therefore, they did not want to kill the disciples of Shenmu sect. Moreover, he is a genius with outstanding spiritual roots, and is expected to become a true disciple in the future. However, if they don't kill Chen Mobai, this genius, they might face retaliation if he achieves great success in his cultivation in the future. Therefore, they also want a guarantee from Chen Mobai. All right, let's make a vow of faith in each other. Although Chen Mobai was unaware of the complicated thoughts in the minds of these two fellow disciples, he grasped their desire not to kill the disciples of the Divine Wood sect. While marveling at how useful the tiger skin from the Eastern Wilderness sect was, he also removed the brass ring he was wearing. The three exchanged a glance, just as they were about to raise their hands to swear an oath. A faint rumble of thunder suddenly sounded. Good heavens, they even had accomplices. As expected, everyone here is a cunning and wicked villain. Chen Mobai thought that the two rogue cultivators were deliberately trying to mislead him, and were waiting for him to take off the ring before making a move. But then they saw lightning bolts shooting down from a distance, indiscriminately striking all three of them. Just as he was surprised, the two fellow disciples opposite him also changed their expressions, thinking that Chen Mobai had known the news beforehand and had prepared reinforcements. The two swords merged, their sword energy flowing, dissipating all the blue lightning to the roadside, leaving streaks of black char on the grass. I've been in the eastern wilderness for 30 years, and I've never seen anyone like you. Hequin came out with his two sworn brothers. He had a strange expression on his face, clearly shocked by the scene of Chen Mobai persuading the two of them with words. End of this chapter. Chapter 159, You Would Divine Thunder Talisman. Chapter 159, You Would Divine Thunder Talisman. Hequin. Chen Mobai frowned when he saw the person who had arrived. It turned out that Lu Shu hadn't lied to him. This guy really was suspicious. You're trying to double-cross me. When the rogue cultivators opposite saw Hequin and the other two appear, their expressions changed. They were clearly surprised that Hequin dared to follow them. However, upon seeing the two people who appeared behind Hequin, they understood the reason. You bandits from Nanshan didn't all die in Yumeng's. Chen Mobai saw Hequin and the other two. Although he didn't know their names, he had seen them before. On the Liu family's icebreaker, they were also late-stage qi refining experts who had been invited to fight against the demonic beasts. Although I don't know the relationship between these two rogue cultivators and Hequin and his two companions, I have a general idea of what they are after listening to their conversation. It must have been when I used this brass ring on the Liu family's icebreaker that I was exposed to Hequin and the others, which led to the current situation. Ultimately, it was because I wasn't careful enough. Lei Wang Liu, there are only 3 of you left in the southern mountain bandits today. It won't be so easy for you to take down my fellow disciples and this disciple of the Divine Wood sect at the same time. Chen Mobai didn't speak, but silently put the brass ring back on his hand. The two rogue cultivators then began to signal to him with their eyes, indicating that they intended to join forces. Can Ziu, Can Ping, although you two cultivate sword techniques, you don't have flying swords after all, so you are no match for me. Hequin didn't speak. He stepped aside and let Lei De, who looked like a young man, step forward. We'll follow the rules. Since we've taken the sword-forging ring, we'll naturally give you your share of the reward. Upon seeing Lei De Bio step forward, Can Ziu spoke, slightly showing weakness, as if he knew he was no match for him. That's okay too. Lei De pretended to think for a while, then nodded and pointed at Chen Mobai. Then kill him right now. As long as we get the goods, whether we kill them or not doesn't matter. Can Ziu frowned. He knew that if he killed Chen Mobai, a disciple with outstanding spiritual root talent who had just been recruited by the Divine Wood sect, then even if he joined the Golden Light Cliff, he would only be controlled by this group of southern mountain bandits for the rest of his life. That's not up to you. If you don't kill him, I'll kill you all first and then I'll kill him. As Lei Dajing spoke, he took out a gong-shaped magical artifact. Thunderous drum. Can Ziu frowned upon seeing the magical artifact. Chen Mobai sensed that the scales between the two rogue cultivator brothers had already tipped in favor of He Quen and his two companions. This can't go on. If they reach a consensus, then this day next year will be his death anniversary. Gentlemen, even if the three of us can't win by joining forces, it should be easy for us to save our lives. Chen Mobai immediately spoke up. Senior brother, I'll listen to you. Can Ping nodded to Can Ziu, who sighed and then gripped his sword, aiming it at Chen Mobai. Go to hell. Seeing this, Chen Mobai, who was already mentally prepared, did not hesitate at all and took out his most treasured talisman. This is a laminated cyan talisman. The Yiwood Divine Thunder Talisman is a second-tier, low-grade item. He had already experienced the methods of these two rogue cultivators. If it came to a protracted battle, he would definitely be no match for them in a 2-on-1 fight. Even if you win, there are still 3 people watching you like hawks. If you want to survive, the only way is to defeat your opponents and reduce their numbers in the shortest amount of time, ideally by wiping them all out. He knew that a life-or-death struggle was inevitable when He Quen and the other 2 appeared, so he used the absorption technique to hold the Yiwood Divine Thunder Talisman in his palm and infuse it with spiritual power. Seeing the negotiations break down and the 2 brothers, Can Ziu and Can Ping, drawing their swords against him, he naturally felt no heartache or hesitation. He immediately unleashed his strongest talisman. Boom! As expected of a second-tier talisman, even if it is only of low grade, it is equivalent to a spell that a foundation establishment cultivator can concentrate on. Chen Mobai flicked out the talisman in his hand, and immediately streaks of blue lightning shot out, which in the blink of an eye transformed into a wildly dancing blue current, like a blue dragon sweeping over the 2 brothers, Can Ziu and Can Ping, turning them into charred remains. At this moment, the power of this talisman was only 1 or 2/10 of its full potential. Chen Mobai felt his spiritual energy being rapidly depleted, and he began to feel dizzy in a short moment. However, he still mustered his strength and controlled the remaining power of the talisman, aiming it at the location of He Quen and the other 2. Rumble! The swirling blue electric current, carrying the immense power to obliterate a mountain peak, landed in front of Chief Lei. Leida's expression changed drastically, but he gripped the thunder drum with both hands and struck it hard with all his might. With a deafening roar, a bolt of blue lightning shot out like a silver snake, colliding with Chen Mobai's Yiwood Divine Lightning Talisman. After a burst of intense light, He Quen's water element shield and Wang Liu's heart-protecting mirror both emitted powerful spiritual light, each using its own method to dissipate the power of the Divine Thunder Talisman. After nearly 2 minutes of raging lightning and silver serpent energy, the barren mountain finally calmed down. Lei the leader coughed violently twice and spat out a mouthful of blood. But he still survived, thanks to the second-tier magic artifact in his hand. However, when he turned his head and looked at it, his eyes were red. He Quen lay there, barely clinging to life, while Wang Liu's protective mirror shattered, turning into countless fragments that fell to the ground. Lei turned to look at where Chen Mobai was, only to find that the place was already empty. The latter had already taken advantage of the rampage caused by the Yiwood Divine Thunder Talisman and fled in one direction. You brat, I'm going to grind him to dust. Lei Dajing gestured for Wang Liu to carry He Quen on his back, then picked up a tracking incense stick, lit it, and chased after Chen Mobai in the direction he had left, his eyes red. Just then, a tall, upright man dressed in black suddenly appeared and blocked their way. Who is it? Although Lei Da was furious, he did not lose his mind. He sensed that the person in front of him was probably at the peak of chi refining, just like himself. Under normal circumstances, with a second-tier magic weapon in hand, he would naturally not fear any opponent of the same tier. However, having just taken a hit from the Yiwood Divine Thunder Talisman, his strength has been reduced by nearly 30%, so he still needs to be careful. Originally, I didn't want to get involved in the fighting among you rogue cultivators. The man in the black robe raised his head. He had an ordinary face, but a pair of exceptionally bright eyes. Leda, the leader, remembered someone. My name is Yun. You shouldn't have attacked my Chen Mobai sect disciples. Not good. Just as Leda was about to escape, Yun held up 5 fingers at him. End of this chapter. Chapter 160, Boiling Water Palace. Chapter 160, Boiling Water Palace. After using the Yiwood Divine Thunder Talisman, Chen Mobai did not hesitate at all. He immediately affixed 2 swift travel talismans and ran towards the location of the water mansion. Of course, before leaving, he didn't forget to retrieve the bag of spirit stones he had thrown away. This was earned through hard work. Having fled all the way, fearing being caught by the bandits of Nanshan, Chen Mobai finally managed to hide in the water mansion amidst his anxiety. Having obtained the array flag of the Azure Water Array, he felt slightly more at ease relying on the second-tier array. Feeling the almost empty spiritual energy in his danshan, Chen Mobai didn't care about wasting it and directly gave himself a first-grade high-quality revival talisman. I recovered to full condition in the shortest possible time. He also held onto his phone, ready to return to the immortal sect immediately if the other side showed any signs of breaking through the Azure Water formation. Then they waited anxiously for half a day, only to find that no enemy came looking for them. This made Chen Mobai breathe a sigh of relief. However, he still dared not let his guard down. While continuing to maximize the power of the Azure Water formation, he began to prepare to break the Ren Water Thunder technique restrictions on the remaining 2 side halls. If those bandits from Nanshan really come to attack his door later, he plans to take the things in the side hall and teleport away directly. Chen Mobai had already mastered the decryption method recorded by Liu Lingpei during his 6 months at Danju Academy. However, since they had no practical experience, they failed on their first attempt to crack the code. But this was mainly because Chen Mobai was not calm and his hands were hesitant. Before attempting the second breakthrough, he used the mind cultivation and spirit forging technique to sit quietly for a quarter of an hour. Only after he felt his mind and spiritual energy had calmed down did he calmly execute the breakthrough method. With a click, a crisp sound rang in my ears. Chen Mobai saw the lightning arcs that had been covering the side hall gate dim until they disappeared completely. The disappearance of the restriction seemed to activate the door's mechanism, and under his expectant gaze, the door slowly opened. A warm current rushed towards me. Finally, he saw what was inside. Inside was a plantation, set up according to a specific situation. A ditch was dug around the perimeter, through which flowed clear, bright water, the source of which was unknown. Surrounded by ravines is a mound of earth, roughly 5 or 6 square meters in size. These soils were different from what he usually saw. They were actually crimson red. Standing outside the door, Chen Mobai felt the warmth emanating from these red soils. And in the red soil, 4 bamboo stalks are planted. The bamboo stalks are like green jade, upright and straight, and the bamboo leaves are like swords, with faint golden and silver light visible. Chen Mobai took a look and saw that it was 1 gold and 3 silver. This should be the gold-edged and silver-edged jade bamboo recorded in Liu Lingpei's notes. Fortunately, this side hall provides a suitable environment for the growth of the jade bamboo. Otherwise, they might have all withered and died after several decades. Chen Mobai tested the area with a coin to confirm that there were no other restrictions inside. He then walked in and carefully examined the 4 jade bamboos. He also reached out and touched the only one with gold edges. He saw that this bamboo seemed to have absorbed most of the spiritual energy over the years, growing the best, with even a bamboo flower bud at the top. As Chen Mobai touched the bamboo, he felt a rich and pure spiritual energy swirling within each bamboo joint. He bent down and squatted down, rummaging through the soil around the Solomon seal growing, and sure enough, he found 6 or 7 bamboo shoots. This was Liu Lingpei's primary task in cultivating the jade bamboo in this water mansion. These jade bamboo shoots and azure blood carp were the favorite spiritual food ingredients of a certain golden core ancestor of the 5 elements sect. However, Chen Mobai has already finished eating the blood carp. I wonder if the jade bamboo shoots also have the effect of increasing spiritual roots. Chen Mobai dared not be negligent. Using the method recorded in Liu Lingpei's notes, he dug out all the sprouting bamboo shoots, then sealed them with red soil and put them into a pre-prepared plastic bag. After picking the bamboo shoots, Chen Mobai reached out and plucked all the silver and gold-edged bamboo leaves, folded them neatly, and placed them into the other 2 boxes. As early as when he learned that Liu Lingpei might be cultivating Solomon's seal in the side hall of the water mansion, he had been searching for the effects of this spiritual plant. There is a shop in Nanxi Market, run by LV Yuling, that specializes in selling Solomon seal-related products. Chen Mobai casually inquired and obtained the information he wanted. Jade bamboo shoots are a delicacy. Bamboo leaves can be used as talisman paper. Silver-edged bamboo leaves are first-tier talisman paper, and gold-edged bamboo leaves are second-tier talisman paper, which are perfect for crafting the Crimson Flame sword talisman. Bamboo flowers are also a spiritual medicine. However, if you wait for the bamboo flowers to bear fruit and turn into bamboo seeds, you can eat them directly without refining them, which can improve your eyesight, clear your mind, and enhance your spiritual awareness. The remaining bamboo stalks, bamboo cores, and bamboo roots each have their uses, but to obtain them, it is necessary to cut them down. The education Chen Mobai received from the immortal sect since childhood taught him that he should not cut down flowers and plants at will, perhaps to protect spiritual plants. Although this is the heavenly river realm, Chen Mobai felt that cutting down these jade bamboos was a waste of resources, and at most they should be sold as raw materials. It's better to keep them for seed, so you can harvest bamboo shoots, leaves, flowers, and fruits every year. Of course, if the water palace were to be breached, Chen Mobai would certainly be ruthless. However, the focus is still on sustainable development. He packed the silver-edged and gold-edged bamboo leaves into 2 separate boxes, then put them in his backpack along with the plastic bag containing the jade bamboo shoots, before heading out to open another side hall. However, this side hall was completely empty, except for a futon in the very center. It looks like Liu Lingpei's training room. After walking around inside and confirming there were no hidden compartments, Chen Mobai left somewhat disappointed. He sent a message back to Earthly Star, bringing back the jade bamboo shoots and bamboo leaves. Then, eager to show off his culinary skills, he cut a bamboo shoot in half, sliced it into pieces, and then stir-fried it in oil with the cured meat he brought from Kingshan village. A bowl of stir-fried bamboo shoots with meat made Chen Mobai finished the entire pot of spirit rice he had cooked. Delicate, tender, crisp, and delicious. He had never eaten such delicious food before. After finishing his meal, Chen Mobai let out a burp and didn't forget to take out the spirit testing device. Spiritual roots: metal 23, wood 28, water 30, fire 17, earth 10. As expected, the wood spirit root increased by 1 point. I just don't know if it will drop in price like the crimson carp, or if there's a limit to its value. Even though he was already quite full, Chen Mobai still sliced and ate the remaining half of the bamboo shoot raw for comparison. Let's see if stir-frying will affect the quality of the Solomon seal bamboo shoots. After finishing the meal, he took out the spirit testing device to try it out. Wood 29. No impact. Chen Mobai waited another night and tested again the next morning, and sure enough, it was lost. It became wood 28. He was slightly disappointed, but a thought immediately flashed through his mind. It just so happens that his cultivation of the pure Yang Dharma body will damage his liver and gallbladder, So if he can replenish his liver and gallbladder with these jade bamboo shoots in advance, is there any possibility? End of this chapter.